We've got a new fully Ramblematic t-shirt available now at our dftba.com merch store. There is no middle finger big enough. That's what it says on the shirt. I mean, that wasn't me editorializing. Buy now. We've got a new fully
Because there's the new...
We've got a new fully Ramblematic...
What is happening? How many buttons are we hitting? I'm assuming I can talk now, correct, Eric? Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rewind, episode number 29 for Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Marty Sleva here, joined by Darren Mooney, Jack Packard, and producer Eric. Stuck the landing, and we are here. And we got such a show for you guys today. I'm not 100% sure any of us have seen the same things.
No.
Jack was just bemoaning how like the theaters haven't sparked a joy in him in the past week or so. My most anticipated movie was on Apple. So I don't know what's going on.
The movie was in theaters, though. Like that's the thing. You, as you Americans, you got to see it in theaters.
Wasn't any High Slopes was not in Madison, Wisconsin.
It was not a it was playing at one of my art house theaters here in Milwaukee. I did not see it, but it was playing in a theater.
Apparently, I don't love Spike Lee enough to drive an hour both ways.
I will say I got invited to the press screening at like 6 p.m. in London, which was very nice of them. You have to make your own commute.
Yeah. A polite pass, but there you go. And welcome everyone to The Rewind. As you could probably tell, we'll be talking about a whole grab bag of things, including the new Conjuring movie, which came out. Let me tell you, literally the biggest horror movie opening of all time globally. Literally made more money than any horror movie ever on an opening weekend. And I just gotta ask, who the fuck is going to see these movies besides me and Darren?
Did you not see the statistics from, was it the National Research Group, where it was like, it's Gen Alpha, baby. It's Gen Alpha.
Babies like this movie? What is going on?
Gen Alpha loves horror movies.
Jenna Elfman loves horror movies. So we'll be talking about that. As we mentioned, we'll be talking about Highest to Lowest, the new Spike Lee movie that's a remake of Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, and then all sorts of other stuff we've been watching on our own. How are you guys doing? We did it. We made it here.
We did it. Part of our pre-ramblings. Well, we can try to say this again. Part of our problem is as we get ready for the podcast, the three of us just happen to enjoy talking to each other. So Darren and I got started talking about the Toxic Avenger, and so we're going to try to rehash a little bit of that conversation here at the start of the podcast because nothing in this past week or weekend has inspired me to leave the house. I didn't want to go, and I love seeing movies in theaters, but I didn't. And so Darren said, not even the Toxic Avenger. And I don't have the love boner many B film enjoyers have for Troma. I think Troma is very special. Their filmography is very, very special. But it's also very much in a bubble, kind of encapsulating a certain time period, a certain budget, a certain aesthetic, a certain tube TV, direct to VHS aesthetic. And so seeing that on a big screen shot in high definition isn't really that exciting to me.
Yeah, we were talking about like the idea that it is, because obviously it is made for a tiny budget. And I will say one of the things I do love about the new Toxic Avenger is they're using like the money that they're grossing to erase medical debt, which is like actually a good thing for a film to be doing.
Yeah, explain that that kind of promo they were running.
It was like, wasn't it every dollar that you spend on the Toxic Avenger on its opening weekend, they would spend another dollar on erasing medical debt, which is like a really cool thing to do. But also when you look at the box office performance of the movie, you're like, maybe you guys should keep some of that for yourselves. But it is a legitimately wonderful piece of promotion, because obviously the Toxic Avenger is a movie that is kind of about medical debt in the way that it's about anything. But it's about like capitalism, and it is like a major theme of the movie that like the central character has an inoperable tumor that he has to go and commit crimes that lead him to become said Avenger, who may or may not be toxic, in order to pay for the operation to cure the disease that he has. But like it's just a really nice thing to do. But we were talking about like how obviously that movie was made for no money whatsoever, which is incredible. It's an incredible filmmaking accomplishment. I have my issues with the movie. To Jack's point, and Jack hit the nail on the head. One of my problems with the movie, and it feels like a really unfair problem for me to have with the movie, is that it simply looks too good for a movie that was shot on like a $20 budget. Where like Macon Blair, the director, we talked about it last week. He's worked, obviously, he did like Blue Ruin, he's done Green Room, he's worked with Jeremy Saulnier a couple of times. He's made his own movies before, and he has like an understanding of cinematic language. Not to pretend the Trauma guys do not understand cinematic language. They understand it very well, very efficiently, and they know what they're doing and how to do it. But Blair has a certain kind of flair, a Blair flair, if you will, to the work that he does, where even seemingly like mundane sequences, like there's an early sequence where the character is on the phone talking to his insurance company, which is just exposition to, as we say, set up that kind of medical debt plot line to motivate the character. But the camera in that sequence, which looks like it was shot in some empty, abandoned British civil service building from the 1970s, the camera is still moving in interesting ways, even during the most mundane setting, where as he's walking up and down the stairwell, the camera's drifting left and right and tracking with him, and he's blocked out of the shot at certain points during his dialogue, so you can't see his face when he might be crying, for example, which is just a really clever bit of visual storytelling. But I'm also, to Jack's point, like, is this Nicole Kidman style Why I Come to the Toxic Avenger? And I like the Toxic Avenger a lot.
Does heartbreak feel good in a place like that?
Like this, yeah.
Well, and like I said, Trauma. When I was younger, we watched Trauma movies not for the love of cinema, almost in spite of cinema itself. And so, like, to me, like I'm still kind of grappling with like why are you doing this, Trauma? Like this seems like the worst bit of nostalgia scraping, even and knowing that they had their opening box office go towards a charitable cause, that reeks of desperation of just trying to get word out there. Yes, erasing a medical debt is a hugely important problem, especially here in America, where medical debt can ruin lives. But that to me is a marketing ploy and a reason for me not to care about this movie. And that is very cynical of me.
That being said, it's one, I want to see more people. I want to see James Cameron say, for every $1 million Avatar 3 makes, I'm going to go 10 feet deeper in the ocean. It's the $2 billion mark. I'm going to see what the core of the earth is like.
I love, by the way, that's like we're gamifying opening box office weekend. We reached the point where like the only way to escalate the opening box office past the point where it is like we will do insane things.
Yes. Yeah. Also, I think part of that Trauma thing, I think, might be in, say, the 90s or early aughts. There was something really kind of neat and unique about seeing kind of this plucky group of people want to make a low budget thing.
Yes.
And I think YouTube took a lot of the charm out of that, because we're now inundated. Everyone has the ability to make a low budget thing on their phone. And it's just everywhere. And so like that can-do attitude kind of isn't enough anymore. I think there needs to be another there for people really to latch onto.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah. And I think the there that people crave is The Nun and the Conjuring cinematic universe. Jack, what part of the Conjuring cinematic universe do you think this weekend's The Conjuring Last Rites was? Which installment in the Conjuring cinematic universe?
Okay, I have seen exactly 0 of the Conjuring cinematic universe. Okay. Exactly 0. So I'm going to guess.
So count them down, Jack. Count them down for us.
Count them down for so there's The Conjuring, obviously, like that's number 1. There's the Conjuring 2, The House is on the Inside. There's The Conjuring 3, Too Many Dolls, but 2 is spelled with the number 2.
Do you know what the doll's name is?
Too Many Dolls. Is that Annabelle?
Yes.
Nailed it. You just stumbled into another one of the movie names.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I feel like Conjuring Too Many Dolls was Annabelle. I feel like that's what Jack was describing when he like named. Great.
So then it's Conjuring 4, Annabelle's Revenge after
Sure.
Too Many Dolls. Conjuring 5 is actually a colon Greasy Dads, which to me is like the peak of the Conjuring cinematic universe because it's very subtly a horror movie and more just a bunch of dads taking their shirts off and getting
They're
all
just
greased
being
up.
real greasy. They're very shiny.
Patrick
Very
Wilson's
shiny.
best performance in the franchise, if
Right.
we're going to be entirely honest. Yeah.
So then we have Conjuring 6, None But the Best, but it is spelled like none. And this
habit.
is the Conjuring 7, Nuns versus Dolls, I assume.
What if I told you? I believe this is the 10th movie in the Conjuring cinematic universe, if we count The Curse of La Llorona, which I
There we
do.
go.
Why would I not count The Curse of La Llorona? Was that what was Darren was getting ready to be like? It's actually the ninth.
I was, yeah.
Do we not count La Llorona
I think
anymore?
even
What
though
happened to her?
it features a returning character, so it is obviously part of the continuity. They have like Samuel L. Jackson-esque kind of crossover characters between the franchises to the point where like, and again, this is only getting into minor spoilers, but like the third Annabelle movie, I believe, is called Annabelle Comes Home. By the way, Jack, there are 3 Annabelle movies. The
Yes.
third Annabelle movie is called Annabelle Comes Home, I believe, and that
Okay.
actually has Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson in their roles from The Conjuring in the movie.
It's like a Captain America Civil War, but it's kind of an Avengers movie.
It's like you could tell that that the Annabelle franchise really wasn't pulling its own weight, and they just seen that they'd announced like Avengers Endgame, and they were like, okay, we got to up the stakes here a little bit. Like without exaggerating and without spoilers, this is not spoilers. The Conjuring Last Rites, which will no longer be the last movie in the Conjuring franchise, but it ends with a sequence that can only be described as the Conjuring verse version of Tony Stark's funeral, complete with shockingly bad CGI compositing of the original franchise launching director, in this case James Wan, into a sequence where he clearly does not belong, because you gotta pay respect to the master.
You gotta pay respect to the master.
This sounds absurd.
Yeah, it is. Is the reason these movies are, and again, I wasn't joking when I said this movie made almost $200 million at the global box office this weekend, and that is the highest opening weekend of any horror movie ever. It surpassed It Part 1, or It Part 2, one of the
Sure.
Sure. What is it because this movie came out the first one came out 10 or 12 years ago, and so it is a Gen Alpha, as in this was ours, like, and it's not based on any, I mean, it's based on those fucking crackpot people, but does that mean to say? I don't know. Whatever. It don't matter.
No. I feel like when you read into Ed and Lorraine Warren,
they're not great.
Anything you say about them feels somewhat justified. But yeah, I think like you're right. It's the 10-year gap, because obviously I think the first one came out in 2013, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
10 years is kind of the sweet spot, because it gets you from one side of a demographic to another. You know, it gets you from you've just started going to the cinema. This is your franchise and you're locked in with it, to at the end, okay, time to cash in the chips. I'm finally going to pay respect to Ed and Lorraine Warren, as played by like Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. It's the same thing that happened with the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. That took about 10 years to complete. Happened with the John Wick 4, where you had a similar type situation. That franchise was wrapped up in about 10 years and saw a big end. As you say, the Minions, the gentle Minions trend kind of carries that across. I think like it is really fortuitous timing, but it is also the fact that these are like blockbuster horror movies. This is the application of modern franchise filmmaking to the genre that is perhaps least friendly to it, which is, can we make an interconnected horror universe? And Stephen King has done it in his novels, perhaps done it less successfully in the films adapted from his novels. Shout out to The Dark Tower, starring Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey, a movie that definitely exists and lots of people have seen. But this does manage to do, for mainstream cinematic horror, what the MCU did for superheroes, which is fascinating.
Here's my real question, because we talk a lot about prestige horror here, that some of our favorite movies are in the genre of prestige horrors. Are any of these 10 movies good? Are they worth your time?
The first Conjuring is pretty decent. I actually really like the
Agreed.
first Conjuring. And the second Conjuring is fascinating because that's the one where they start amping steroids into it. The Conjuring
Oh,
franchise is
no.
it's the rare horror franchise to feature multiple car chases. In fact, again, the slightest of spoilers, the opening sequence for Last Rites includes an homage to the great car chase sequence from The Conjuring 2,
Yep.
which is to get back to that blockbuster filmmaking. It's like, it's not what you expect to see in a horror film franchise. Outside of that, shockingly, most of them are bad. The two Annabelle sequels, not the first Annabelle movie is diabolical and not in the good way, but the
Annabelle
two
Creation's pretty good.
There we go.
The David Sandberg
That's
one.
Dave Sandberg one, yeah, with Anthony LaPlagia, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is surprisingly good. And Annabelle Comes Home is like, again, just fascinating because it is Captain America: Civil War, but with a demonically possessed doll.
What did you think of Last Rites, Darren? I also saw it in theaters, and it might have been the most I've ever just stared at a screen and kind of zoned out at a movie in a very long time. I think there's two of these. I've seen all 10 of these movies, if we count La
Yeah.
Llorona. I think two of them I would say are good, and the rest of them I've watched because I have a problem. Because I'm just like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, we got to keep going. And you don't have to keep going. I could have just stayed home. I
Yeah.
could have seen Caught Stealing, which I should have. I like Darren Aronofsky. I don't understand why I did this.
I love, by the way, that every once in a while we're like, people should go and see original films, and every time Marty's like, yeah, but I went to see the 10th Conjuring movie
I
instead.
can't help it. I wanted to be like the youth correspondent and be like, what is the youth doing? It turns out I went at like 10 in the morning on a Sunday, and the youth just were not seeing movies. They weren't there. There was no one there. What did you think of the movie, Darren?
I was not a huge fan of it. Again, the thing with the Conjuring movies is they are fascinating as objects because they are so much modern franchise nonsense crammed into like a horror framework. And so it's interesting to watch them from that point of view, where like Annabelle inexplicably has a cameo at the big action climax of this movie, because you can't have a finale to the Conjuring series without giant Annabelle showing up for some reason, which is completely unearned and makes no sense whatsoever. They also spiritually have the nun involved, except this time she's played by John Wayne, which is a very interesting choice. I thought that was a bold decision from the cast and crew. The movie itself is not good. It is far too long. It is far too sluggish. It is far too self-indulgent. It wallows in melodrama. It also, and this is a thing that is a problem for me with the later Conjuring movies, setting aside the Ed and Lorraine Warren are terrible people, and this movie gives them a platform and actually enriches them, and there's a huge moral question mark about that. Setting aside all of that, I actually really like the chemistry between Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. I think like their marriage is one of the like most loving marriages captured in mainstream blockbuster American cinema, because but there is never any like conflict between them. There is never any doubt. They're just two people who love each other very much, and they're two actors who I enjoy spending time with. And I think like one of my big issues with this movie is that it is inexplicably just an Ed story. It's like, we're going to wrap up the entire franchise. And I'm like, okay, what are the Warrens going to be doing? It's like, well, Lorraine is going to be on a pretty even keel. She's going to be doing grand. Ed is going to have a lot of stuff going on. And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm that invested in Ed as a solo protagonist. I don't know how much we want to get into spoilers, but there is a big, like, Ed had a heart attack recently, and Ed is feeling disillusioned with demon hunting because of the hit 1984 movie Ghostbusters is actually a plot point in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And again, all this stuff just washes off Lorraine's back. She's just like, Ghostbusters was funny. I didn't really have a big deal with it. And Ed's like, no, I can't go back out there again after Ghostbusters. But like the movie has this big arc of like their daughter's getting married. And again, Lorraine is like, I think it's great that our daughter has found a man that she loves. And Ed is like, there's another man in my daughter's life. I feel inadequate as a result of this. And so much of the movie is variations upon that conflict playing out in an infinite number of frustrating permeations. I was not hugely fond of The Conjuring Last Rites.
It is funny you mentioned the heart attack thing because I was watching the movie and literally I was like, this is the plot of The Wrestler, where he's like has a heart condition, like you gotta stop wrestling or else you're gonna die in the ring. It's like, Ed, you gotta stop fighting these ghosts or else you're gonna die in the house. And that got me also thinking, why am I not in the theater next door watching Darren Aronofsky's new movie? I don't know. I also like how you bring up the nun John Wayne thing, and Jack just kind of looks at it and was like, "Oh, okay, we'll just roll right past that."
We'll just accept that as part of the logic of this universe.
Yeah.
I did laugh out loud in the theater when that happened. By the way,
it's good stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff.
And
Because the nun is a painting, like a painting, and there's an evil entity in the painting, and the evil entity in this painting is a painting of John Wayne.
See, and the reason that rolled off my back a little bit is I'm also pretty bad with actors' names, and so I assumed that was the name of a separate actor, also named John Wayne, not Cowboy John Wayne.
Yeah.
And now that I know that the nun is Cowboy John Wayne, I am significant. I'm more like calling this like Spooky the Wrestler, and knowing that there's nun ghost John Wayne in it. You're kind of selling me.
It's different John Wayne. It's John Wayne Gacy, a completely different John Wayne.
I know. I think he has like a Ryan Murphy Netflix TV show coming soon. The way that I love that, like we've gotten to the Ryan Murphy is building a shared universe of serial killers now. But yeah, like that's the thing about these movies is that they're not great. They're not even good in many cases, but they're so fascinating because they're doing the math of franchise building within a framework that doesn't understand them. Because obviously there has always been blockbuster horror. Like you go back to the 1970s, go back to the 1950s, the horror B movies were massively successful. Go back to the 1930s, you've got like the Universal monster movies are like pushing the form. But even during the 70s, like in the lead up to Jaws is the first blockbuster, but two of the movies that helped like three of the movies that helped pave the way to it are like French Connection, The Godfather, and The Exorcist. So like there's always been, and this movie, this franchise like incredibly heavily rips off The Exorcist, and it rips off like The Omen. There's a recurring bit of the "this is for you, I'm going to throw myself off a high ceiling and hang myself," lifted directly from The Omen. These are, as you might expect from the Warrens, highly Catholic horror movies, to the point where like there's an extended scare sequence set in the local archdiocese. But like oh lordy, indeed. There's a moment where a priest like storms out of the haunted house and goes, "I'll get the church. The church will listen to me." Like he runs to the bishop's house, but the bishop is absent, much like God, Jack. Much like God.
Wow.
It's profound. Much like Ed Warren, God is an absent father. But there is something so fascinating about taking all of that, which has always been part of like the fabric and the texture of mainstream horror, particularly mainstream American cinematic horror, and like just filtering it through the lens of shared universes and blockbusters and modern franchise storytelling, where like I think like Marty made the point I've argued before. I think the Conjuring is like inarguably like Hollywood's second most successful attempt to build a shared universe after the MCU. Like, it's not the DCU. It's certainly not the Spamunk, the Sony universe of Marvel characters.
You can't call it the Spamunk.
And expect people to know what it is. But like it is like The Conjuring is the one that is like consistently performing above expectations that audiences still turn out for, and which is legitimately critic proof if you look at the scores of those movies compared to their box office returns. And it is so fascinating to me because it demonstrates like it makes me ask the question, like, did Hollywood really miss the boat on the MCU when it was like so many of the competitors, the MCU, were like, we're going to build a shared universe of superheroes? Was it just, no, audiences just want shared universes in general, where it's like audiences want a shared universe of horror? Do audiences want a shared universe of rom-coms? Was there so much left on the table because Hollywood got so preoccupied with the superhero genre, when really what they yearned for was like cameo-laden 10-year later finales?
Darren, we have talked on this very podcast before about Netflix having a shared universe of rom-coms. It is there. In the 90s for Must See TV on Thursday, we had a shared sitcom universe, which was great.
I mean, Frasier and Cheers.
Well,
It
not
Cheers,
was a-
cinematic universe.
Friends,
Friends, Mad About
You, Seinfeld all take place in the same universe.
Well, you know.
Although to be fair,
Do they?
didn't the Seinfeld people just say screw that when they were asked about it? If I
Oh,
remember
maybe
correctly.
Seinfeld's the only one of those I watch, so maybe that's the only reason.
No.
Yeah.
Kramer rents his apartment from Paul Reiser from Mad About You.
Oh, okay. That's because they were at one stage supposed to do like there was going to be like a Thursday night blackout where like there would be a blackout that would take place beginning in Seinfeld, playing through Friends and resolving itself in Mad About You. But famously, the Seinfeld guys were just like, that seems like a lot of work, really.
Yeah. But they in an episode of Mad About You, reaching back into my mind palace here. Helen Hunt gets mad at Paul Reiser because Paul Reiser still has his bachelor apartment, even though they are married. And he decides to finally get rid of his bachelor apartment, which this whole time he has been leasing to Kramer in a Mad About You
New York.
episode. Yeah.
In the 90s. I love the idea of like, we've got a second property. What are you going to do? Just get rid of it as quickly as possible. This is no value.
Does that other guy have a job? How he's going to pay for it? I don't know.
So, and of course, Lisa
Phoebe's
Kudrow,
twin sister,
also played a role on Mad About You beforehand, and so they retconned that by making it her twin sister who also interacted with them. And the doctors from ER appear in the Friends cafe at one point. Like, no, there is an interconnected.
No, they go to the hospital at one point, don't they?
Yeah,
the ER guys.
There is an interconnected must-see TV universe.
And
you know what?
Clooney was the doctor who his heart was broken when George's wife died on him. There was that same episode in ER, and Clooney is heartbroken during it because he tried to save it.
My point is, yes, we love a shared universe. I think they just need to be okay, people need to be okay with failure and knowing that literally every other major studio failed at their shared universe.
Did you read
aside from the Conjuring verse?
Exactly.
About the Call of Duty cinematic universe, which was something they announced a couple of years ago, that they were going to make a bunch of Call of Duty movies and they were all going to be connected. You know how the games have like World War II movies and modern movies and future movies. And then they announced this week that they're coming. Like Paramount got the rights to them. But a story came out that said Steven Spielberg is a massive Call of Duty fan and pitched his Call of Duty movie, and they said no. Because he wanted the Spielberg deal, which is like, I'm Steven Spielberg. I'm arguably the greatest director of all time. Let me make this movie. Call of Duty only exists because of the scene I shot in Private Ryan.
I was about to say, like, if you're the Medal of Honor guys, surely you're feeling a bit like out in the rain that Steven was like, "Oh, I'm gonna. I have a better son now."
What a state of movies we are in where someone says, you know what, Mr. Spielberg, I think we can do better.
Like, he was supposed to do Black Hawks for DC at one point, wasn't he, as well? Like, that was the thing.
It's weird. Hollywood what ifs are a weird thing.
Agreed.
But yeah, we'll be back in 2.5 years talking about the 15th Conjuring movie.
And Jordan Peele's fourth movie.
What's happening there? He just said he's like, I just didn't have a story.
But it's like, it feels so late for him not to have a story. Whereas, like, was there a point where he was sitting up late on like 1st of September 2025? It's like, if the idea hits, I could have this in theaters for next July.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it's a bit late to be at the don't know if I've quite cracked it yet stage of making a movie.
Maybe he saw weapons and got so sad that he's like, this could have been mine. We lost the bidding war. This could have been a monkey paw.
To be fair, I suspect if you fired your entire management team, it is harder to make a movie. That is probably it.
Sure. Yeah, that'll do it. Before moving on, we got a bunch of super chats that came in. Let's go over some of those. Novanus, thank you so much with a €20 dono. Hi from Austria, longtime listener, first time writing in. I just rewatched Stargate 94 with friends. Such a fun, campy space epic. What's your take on Emmerich? Roland Emmerich, the director. And do you have any picks from the wider Stargate franchise? Yeah, are any of you guys Stargate guys? Like, I like the movie. That's the only Stargate
I'm a Stargate
I know.
head. I'm a
I'm
movie
a Stargate guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Love how weird and very sci-fi it is, and also like just like Mormon horny, not like really horny, but like in church horny, and I like that about it.
Mormon horny.
Did you ever watch like the Showtime pilot for the Stargate TV show? Because that is proper horny.
Ooh,
that's like we can
very
show
good.
boobs on like it's so strange because
Incredible.
the rest of the show is obviously like PG-13 syndication stuff, but it's like you get the DVD copy of the pilot as a 12-year-old boy, and you're like, wow, this is not meant to be here. This feels inappropriate and wrong. Can I talk to an adult, please?
Right.
But yeah, I to your point, yeah, very fond of Stargate, very fond of the Stargate like wider universe and franchise. I was a big fan of like SG-1. There was a while when like Voyager was on the air where like Stargate was by default the best Star Trek TV show. If we're being vaguely controversial here, but like the cast, again, that's Richard Dean Anderson, who was MacGyver. He's very good. Michael Shanks, not the Michael Shanks who directed Together. That's a different Michael Shanks, but Michael Shanks is very good there as well. Like I quite like the TV show. And Emmerich wise, I mean, who doesn't love Independence Day?
I mean, that's like that's an all timer. Yeah,
yeah.
I think Emmerich gets a lot of hate because I think it's not going out of line to say he is a simplistic filmmaker. He hits the right notes at the right time, but also he hits the right notes at the right time. Like, let the man cook. He's had a couple duds. I will defend to my last breath Moonfall. I think it is a phenomenal movie. I think it's so much fun. The moon falls. It's great.
Right there.
Never forget how disappointed I think Nick was when he finally watched that. Like,
it is not a great movie, but it's so much fun. It's what a B movie should be. But no, I think he gets too much flack.
Remember The Patriot?
Oh,
I think
he did The
Patriot? A lot of Mel Gibson movies. Yeah, directed The Patriot. Right after Godzilla.
Like,
remember Godzilla?
His attempt at like a serious, earnest Tony Oscar movie, by the way.
Sure, like follow up. Let's do like Braveheart. Let's run it back, kind of. With
with the Jason Isaacs as the most evil man who ever lived, and therefore perhaps the best representation of Imperial Britain ever put to screen. But yes, Perfect. It is. I was not a huge fan. I think Heath Ledger is the eldest son in that as well, if I remember.
Yeah.
Wasn't usually fond of The Patriot. Thought it was like, again, I quite like 90s leading man Gibson. I like that as if to qualify, but modern Gibson, that's really where it's at. But no, I quite like 90s leading man Gibson in terms of like as a movie star. I also like classic Gibson as a director as well. But The Patriot never really worked for me. The Patriot always felt like it was, to your point, felt like it was trying to be more than it was. It felt like it was trying to be take me seriously. I can do what Wolfgang Peterson can do,
Yeah, but he was still wearing his schlock pants while saying, "Take me seriously." Honk, honk.
That's not the Roland Emmerich we want.
Right.
But yeah, Independence Day, great movie. Quintuple A, thank you so much with a $5 dono. When did Nick Cage become a meme? I remember him as a credible romantic lead in City of Angels. So when is he had crippling debt and had to just start taking every movie because he had to pay off his dinosaur bones and.
You guys know this story, which is incredible. So much of the Nicolas Cage story is incredible, but there is this story that somebody tells about being at an auction for dinosaur bones in the 90s. And it would always be there'd be some guy down the back on a phone who'd be like, yeah, whatever it is, I'll pay $100,000 more if we lock it up right now. And it would always turn out to be Nicolas Cage. And there were several big scandals where he bought bones, I believe, that were not meant to be sold and so were confiscated, and he lost the money and lost the bones because
that's unfair. He should get the money back.
Shockingly, the kind of person who would sell you bones that do not belong to them are not the kind of people who handle receipts well. But very, very famously, the story that he tells or he told is that he got very into property right before 2008, the best time to get into property. But he bought the most haunted house in America in Louisiana. It's a famously haunted space. I wish I remember the name of it.
Did Ed and Lorraine ever go there?
They will. They'll get there around about the Conjuring 8, or the Conjuring 18, or whatever it is. But thank you, Eric. He's got it there. The most haunted house in America, basically. And Cage is convinced that it was buying that house that soured his metaphysical spirit, soul, fortune, whatever it is. And then the market crashed. So, and this is true, and I'm sure Eric will get a picture of this. To fix his karma, or whatever you would call it, he bought a plot in a famous Louisiana cemetery next to a famous hoodoo practitioner who was renowned for her good hoodoo, or good. There we go, and Eric's got it. A gigantic pyramid monument that will one day house the remains of Nicolas Cage. It has become tradition. I don't know if it still is. This may have been a pre-pandemic thing, but it was tradition for the better part of 20 years, or 10, or however long it was, for people to wander through the cemetery and leave lipstick kiss marks on that gigantic pyramid that would one day serve as the resting place of Nicolas Cage. But yes, Nicolas Cage got massively into debt and started working out. There is an argument that he was on that path long before then. Look at things like, I think it was 2006 was the year he did The Wicker Man, which is very famously the Not the Bees movie, which is like the first, for me, one of the first memes of Cage. Not quite, I want to take his face off, but like Not the Bees is the moment where he becomes a joke of himself. But you're right, after 2008, he just starts working constantly. My favorite, there's a quote from The Guardian where he's asked about like living in Las Vegas, because he lived in Nevada for a while, and he gives this answer, which is like, the romantic answer to that question is that it's great to stand on the edge of the desert and feel the sand blowing in on you. The less romantic answer to that question is that Nevada's 0% personal tax rate was very beneficial.
I like Nick Cage as a meme is funny. I think even Not the Bees, I think every movie Nicolas Cage has ever acted in, he has given 110% to that movie, to that acting. And many directors and editors don't know how to handle that kind of commitment. So as Eric pulls up, who does know how to handle that? John Woo.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to say John Travolta. Face Off is just like a wonderful exercise in that it is a dude playing a dude pretending to be another dude, to quote Tropic Thunder. But it is such a fascinating acting exercise because it's Cage playing Travolta playing Cage, and it's Travolta playing Cage playing Travolta. Yes. And so it's just like, it is such a fun acting exercise on top of all the slow-mo dub gun fu stuff.
He also absolutely still has his fastball. Like, it's kind of like Sandler, where it's like, Sandler could be in 5 shitty movies, and the right one will come along and be like, oh, fuck, guys absolutely got it. Like a Pig and Mandy and Dream Scenario and
All Out of Space, which I know is a complicated movie because of its director.
I thought he was funny in the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Obviously, you're looking forward to Spider-Man Noir.
There's the John Madden movie, the Madden video game biopic about it. He's playing John Madden.
And they've shown photos of it as well. Like, Eric, can you get a picture of Nicolas Cage as John Madden? There we go.
Oh, that's the stuff. God.
Yeah.
That's the stuff.
Yeah, if you're asking, is that Christian Bale as Al Davis? It is Christian Bale as Al Davis.
Oh my God, look at him as John Madden. That is ridiculous.
Yes,
look at him. Look how high his jeans are. Why are they so high? That is absurd. I know.
Is that a man or a Madden?
A podcast is an audio medium, but if you're listening on Spotify, imagine the highest waisted jeans a man has ever had, and then go like an inch and a half higher. And that's what these jeans are. Holy smokes.
Yeah. And so, like, I think, like, the meme is there, but also Nicolas Cage, I don't believe cares about his meme-esque qualities and continues to give 110% to every acting role he is in.
Yeah.
There is also the idea of Cage, like, as a performer. Like, this is a weird thing when you talk about Cage. We could do 20 minutes or an hour on Cage, but where Cage is like, is it Ethan Hawke who argues that Cage is like the best actor of his generation? And I believe that the quote from Hawke is like, he's the first actor to do anything interesting with the form since Brando. And it's like, he is trying to connect with the ancient troubadours, where like Cage is not doing naturalism, and obviously he's not doing naturalism, but he's not doing naturalism, he's not doing the method, he's not doing anything that we recognize in modern terms as screen acting. He is, in the words of Hawke, communing with the spirit of acting as an idea and transcending it and pushing the art form further. And like, I honestly do think that is a large part of it. It is mimetic, to your point. It is larger than life. It is not naturalistic. It's the kind of performance that would look perfectly in place in a 1930s German silent movie, is a lot of what Cage's performance would.
Yeah.
I find myself really charmed by it. Even when it doesn't work, I'm like, as you say, he's never phoning in, and he's never pulling John Cusack in anything Cusack has done in the past 10 years.
Yeah. And I think like especially for a younger generation, that kind of, I don't want to say wholesomeness, that kind of like, what they would call cringe, but like that kind of like earnest, there's a better word, the word I can't think of. Like, it's hard to process what Nicolas Cage is doing. And so they just kind of turn it into something funny and turn it into a meme.
There's like a sincerity to it that I think a lot of people are kind of allergic to now. And I think it's great. I'm also very curious. Like, Longlegs is another movie where like that is such a swing of a performance, and I'm curious if it was like, where did that come from? Was that partly from him? Was that all from
Osgood Perkins? I do love the idea of like Osgood Perkins like showing up and Cage giving a really mannered, serious, grounded, naturalistic performance, and Perkins being like, no, I have some ideas, Nick. I have some.
But like, to Perkins' credit, like, he knows how to handle Nick Cage. Like, you give him that character, beautiful.
Yeah, they created an entire marketing campaign over like, you aren't gonna believe what this person looks and sounds like,
and it worked. Like, that movie performed incredibly well.
No Conjuring Last Rites, but a few things are.
Well, I mean, if Annabelle had made her like contractually obligated cameo, maybe. We heard that Annabelle didn't want to share the screen with Cage. She was very concerned about how that would work. Yeah.
Annabelle purposely leaked those stories to the press about Megan 2.0, and that's why the movie bombed. Kid Barchetta with the $2 dono. Thank you so much, Kid Barchetta. Who could direct a movie in the Hollow Knight verse? Darren, Hollow Knight and its sequel Silk Song are two very big video games. Silk Song is like the big game of the moment. It's these very difficult 2D games where you play as like a little dude in an oppressive world.
This is the one where like there were cheats of people like modding it to make the early stages easier, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it would be like enemies don't take 2 hits of health off; they take only 1 hit of health. This has, it has kind of like a Guillermo del Toro-ish quality.
Let's say like early Tim Burton.
Tim Burton, yeah. I would be willing to bet that Team Cherry, the creators, were somewhat inspired by Tim Burton.
And I've played very little of Hollow Knight and none of Silk Song, but it's a little reminiscent of my least favorite Aronofsky movie, The Fountain.
How is it your least favorite?
I mean, The Whale was so good. Everybody loves The Whale.
Like it less than The Whale.
That was
you know what The Fountain needed? Jack says a close-up of a bucket of KFC chicken with a scare cord. Then we'd be cooking.
That was just me poking at Marty. That was not true. That was not a true
rolls around. I know what I'm choosing. I'm just gonna be sobbing. You're just gonna be so bored.
That's it. Like, can you imagine like what the Darren Aronofsky version of that would look like? It would take place in modern day Brooklyn and star, I don't know, like Kurt Russell as like a retired former plumber or something. Like, you saw his Batman pitch, right? Which sounds insane, and which I would kind of love to see, even if I know the internet would explode.
What was his? I don't remember what his Batman pitch was.
It's very similar to what Scott Snyder and Nick Dragola are currently doing with their Absolute Batman run, which is the idea of Bruce as a working class orphan who is basically like taken in by Alfred and becomes a vigilante as a working class hero, as somebody like from the slums, as a kid who doesn't have all the privilege and all the tools. And so it would have been, it apparently would have starred like Brad Pitt was interested in doing it, and it would have been very like Fight Club adjacent. Not that we didn't get a David Fincher inspired Batman with the Batman, but it would have been like very like gritty, of course it would, with Aronofsky, very kind of reimagining from the ground up the franchise. It would have looked nothing like Batman does. It would have made the Tim Burton movies look like incredibly faithful adaptations of the source material. But part of me's like, look at Noah. And like, imagine doing Noah, but for Batman. And just to shout out, I read recently the 11 issues of Absolute Batman It Rules. It's a great comic. Yeah.
And shout out to Noah as well.
What if Batman were big? That is the question.
What if Batman were big? We don't talk about that enough. For that, what if he was big? We always talk about what if Batman was sad, but what if Batman was big?
Batman was big.
Yeah.
No, I think like one of the, I think Aronofsky, like one of the true like casts, if you cast directors, is not giving The Watchmen to Aronofsky. I think Aronofsky's Watchmen would have been a phenomenal choice, because then like all you're doing is The Wrestler but with superheroes, and I'm there for it.
Yeah.
But
I think
what
you're
if you
doing the
just
Conjuring
swap
Last
his-
Rites, but with superheroes.
What if you swap every movie that he's done and Zack Snyder every movie they've done, and they all get to just redo the other person's movies?
I was gonna say, can you imagine like Zack Snyder's Black Swan? I suppose it's actually probably quite close to Sucker Punch. Now that you mention it.
right?
Zack Snyder slows down the ass-to-ass scene from Requiem for a Dream. Like, why is it in slow motion? Let's get to the next scene. I don't want to watch this. I feel bad.
Why can I see every like drop of sweat bouncing off the flesh?
Man, Aronofsky really likes these Guardians of Ga'Hoole. He's like a big owl guy. Also, the people who made Scavenger's Reign, I think, could make a cool Hollow Knight. Sorry, that was just I forgot. I went back. Scavenger's Reign was an animated series that did a really good job of exploring a completely alien like flora and fauna on a planet. Yeah. And one thing about Hollow Knight is constantly being like, "What the fuck is this thing?" Like you're just constantly going in there and being like, "What's going on here?" Which is cool. Raven with a $20 dono. Thank you so much, Raven. Jack, I just wanted to post this here in case anyone sees it but didn't watch Monday's podcast. Everyone should join the Second Wind Patreon. If you'll spend $15 for a 2-hour movie, how much time do you spend watching Second Wind content? Raven is our new hype man. I love it.
I don't know why that was
Raven
at me as if I'm not also. I was like, Jack, why aren't you telling everyone to join the Patreon?
Of the three of us, the one who's most likely to remain on message. Yeah,
exactly. Appreciate you, Raven. Thank you so much, and appreciate everyone who is a member of the Patreon, especially all those folks who joined the Patreon over the weekend. We saw such a great show of support, and we have so much fun shit planned for you. Casey already had his Patreon video go up over the weekend, in which he argues that Sinners and K-pop Demon Hunter are in fact the same story, which is wonderful. And we have all sorts of other stuff. Fans of Jackie Chan and Jackie Chan fight scenes should stay tuned for a group video that was shot. The next is similar to Smash or Pass, the Pokemon video, but a different format. Involves Jackie Chan. Eric is taking the lead on editing that, and so that'll be a very fun one as well. Absolutely. There you go. And Guy on Couch, thank you so much for the dono. Darren has a great talent for making movies that are terrible seem fascinating. Jack, you need to expose him to some schlock and let him cook.
Very famously, one of the first things we did back in the early days of Second Wind was you, Marty, complaining that you had not seen a Night Swim pitch.
Oh yeah, I was upset. I was like, "How?"
I want a 2,000-word essay on how Night Swim is the great American movie, and I set myself that
anymore.
as a challenge. Who's gonna veto this?
Yeah, right?
A poker website, it seems now. But yeah, I remember that being the first, maybe the most important editorial note I ever got from Marty was, "These pitches are good, Darren, but I think you could be doing more. You could be arguing for Night Swim as the great American movie." And I think I did it. I think not to pat myself on the back, but I was like, if you think about it, what does the pool represent in American life but aspiration? Yes. It also represents the idea of taking a space that should be communal. Pools, they're like bowling alleys or football pitches. They're places where people should come together and communities should form and everybody should interact with one another. It's like a great literal melting pot, much like this great country. But when you take those pools out of communal spaces and you put them in the backyards of private houses, what do you end up with? A more isolated community. And you have the breakdown of modern American society captured in a little indie budget Blumhouse horror from early 2024. It's terrible, by the way, but it's all there. It's a small note. That's one small note on that.
Beautiful. Too much TV in the chat said, "Easy there, Don Draper." You did kind of go to that like Don Draper fugues thing where you start thinking about like
Let's
family and
think
the
about-
carousel and what this means about the
Let's
American
think about
dream.
for a moment what the
Yeah.
pool represents for America.
This isn't a pool. It's a time machine.
No joke. Every time I rewatch that, I kind of tear up. I'm like, that's really good.
Yeah, I'm
Don,
like, I really want to invest in Kodak. Yeah.
Don, you might be a complete fucking mess of a human, but damn, really good pitch every once in a while.
Really good pitch. Really good.
Really good at your job. Murray, the demonic skull. Thank you so much, Murray, with a $5 dono. Here's money. Almost forgot about the podcast because YouTube didn't mention it to me. Also, Darren has the most adorable, fully rambling avatar in the team pick. That's right.
Shout out to Omar on doing that. Like, it's
Yeah.
a really wonderful design that I think makes me look good, which is a very difficult thing to do, and I really appreciate it, Omar.
I think it's just great that we have that. I can look at that and I'm like, I know who everyone is.
Yeah.
So I think there's an easy world where it's just like everyone just looks the same, but no,
Yeah.
everyone's unique. It's beautiful.
Omar, like is a like I say shockingly talented artist because I just know him as an editor. But it's like, wait a minute, you have so much chops here on the art side of things.
Yeah,
But again, like we work with these guys and have worked with them for years, and every time it's like, this is incredible. This is stunning. I have no idea how you do all of this. It's like once I think I have an idea of like boxed in what your skill set is, you're like, no, hear me, let me capture your essence in like maybe 5 lines, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
great,
truly impressive. We'll save the rest of the super chats for a little bit later. Let's talk about other stuff we've been watching. Jack, what have you been watching? Whoa, my God, that was like a jump scare. Jesus, holy smokes. That was scary.
Like, I love it actually has the lines on my like little color that I do on that shirt. It's incredible. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, Omar, for anyone who doesn't know, Omar made little like kind of Adventures Nice style, fully ramblematic style characters for everyone on the team. So that in videos like Darren's phenomenal new backdrop, we can kind of utilize them as needed. And that's Darren's.
Yeah. Jack, what have you been watching?
Okay, so I did not go to the theaters last week. I had 3 really great movies to watch, and then I made a mistake.
Uh-oh.
It's what I'm gonna say. I was feeling a little bit like watching some romance movies, some absurd romance movies. So I did a double feature one night of They Came Together and Palm Springs, and that was a great double feature. These are movies, obviously, we've talked about Palm Springs a million times, so I won't get too deep into it. But They Came Together is David Wayne's, satire on rom-coms in general. Great cast, Paul Rudd, Amy Poehler, great supporting casts. Wonderful movie, not as good or funny as Wet Hot American Summer, but, hits all of those same notes. Palm Springs, one of my favorite movies from the past 10 years, bar none.
I love Palm Springs.
Palm Springs is beautiful. Like I don't know, like we can gush about how much we love Palm Springs, but I feel like we've done that several times.
I think Time Loops,
like that one,
Time Loops are one of my favorite movies, and I think this is arguably the best Time Loop movie.
Whoa, okay, easy.
Arguably,
I'm like, better than Groundhog Day.
Arguably,
I think it's a little better than Groundhog Day because we get character, we get multi-facets of the of the same character. We have 3 very separate people who are stuck in the time loop who handle things very differently, and that gets more nuance to their characters, whereas we only get Phil in Groundhog Day. So I would say it's better than Groundhog Day.
Is a prettier city than Puxatawny, or wherever the fuck the movie takes place.
Take that, Phil. Yeah. Somebody needs to get stuck in a time loop and pick Puxatawny to properly appreciate it.
The city I live in, Sun Prairie, is famous for also having our own groundhog for Groundhog Day, named Jimmy the Groundhog, and they had to stop. I have not confirmed whether they had to put him down or not, but they had to stop doing the ceremony because a couple of years ago he bit the mayor. Like the mayor held him up and he fucking bit him. And I don't know if like groundhogs are rabid, if like a dog bites you, they got to like check for rabies. So yeah.
I would assume he had to get checked for rabies 100%.
Yeah. So both, they just ended up putting, just to be safe, they put both the mayor and the groundhog down. It's like, we just want to contain this.
Oh, Eric's actually got the footage.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Biting the mayor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
What a time to be alive.
So yeah, I watched those two and filled my heart up with romance and joy. And then I took a swing for a movie I have not seen in quite a long time, and I watched Joe versus the Volcano.
Wow.
And I don't know when the last time you saw that movie, but if you're talking about filling your heart up with joy, you watch Joe versus the motherfucking Volcano. That's a great flick.
I have literally never seen Joe versus the Volcano.
Well, it's the first of the rom-com trilogy starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, along with obviously Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail. So I mean, look, it's the Batman Begins of the trilogy, if you will. Yeah.
No, it's
written and
it's
directed by John Patrick Shanley as well, if I remember correctly, who's also did he did Doubt, but he also did Congo and Wild Mountain Time. So we've got a bit of a variable career going on.
Oh,
there.
Wild Mountain Time. For a second, I was like, is that the guy from Boondock Saints? But that's Sean Patrick Flanery. I was like, is that the Boondock Saint who isn't the guy in the Kojima game? No, I was wrong.
No, but it's a phenomenal movie, a really like bizarro rom-com, because it's, a lot of it deals with kind of like modern cubicle work culture and like a rejection of that. And, the rom-com part of it doesn't come until significantly later. Meg Ryan playing multiple roles in the movie as kind of like different mirrors to Joe's life at different points in time, which is really wonderful. And it's a funny little bizarre travel adventure rom-com movie as well. Fills my heart up to joy. And then I get done watching Joe versus the Volcano, and under the recommended movies to watch next on the streaming service I was watching this on, you know what movie I saw? I saw Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin's Biodome.
It says something when Stephen Baldwin is maybe the second worst thing about a movie.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Where does
also has Kylie Minogue in it, Joey Lauren Adams.
She was important to me.
Here. Oh, go ahead, Marty. I'm sorry.
No, I was just kidding. Where does
I forgot about his dreadlocks. I forgot about.
Oh yeah. How could you?
How culturally sensitive.
Where do you land on the Pauly Shore moment, like the Pauly Shore experiment?
Here's a little bit of backstory. I have an older sister. She's a couple years older than I am. And when Pauly Shore, broke into the world via, I'm going to say Encino Man was his breakout role. My older sister fell in love with Pauly Shore to an obsessive degree. He did like a live comedy show in Milwaukee. Our local radio station like gave away like a meet and greet dinner tickets. She won a ticket to that. And it was as if Elvis were in town. Like she could not speak for a week because she was so excited to see Pauly Shore. So I have seen all the Pauly Shore movies over and over and over again, because that's it's like, I will watch anything. She wanted to watch Pauly Shore.
You're always going back to the shore, yeah.
Always good. It always comes back.
I mean, that's a insane run from 92 to 96, having Encino Man's son-in-law in the army now, jury duty, Biodome, and apparently a voice in a Goofy movie, which I do not know.
And of those, the only one I've seen is the Goofy movie.
You haven't seen Encino Man?
I missed that moment. I'm just a little bit too young for that.
That's why you didn't like The Whale, because you didn't have the grounding of Brendan Fraser and Encino Man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was my problem with The Whale, was that I didn't like Brendan Fraser enough.
Yeah, no, he had a big run and was kind of America's quirky it boy for a solid 5 years. I think the world is better without him being in movies.
Was he made redundant by Kerry? Was Kerry the guy who kind of took his special sauce?
Seemed like it. This was the rise of Sandler, the rise of Chris
the
Farley.
SNL boys.
Yeah. Mike Myers.
It's so like, imagine, if you're trying to think of Pauly Shore as an actor, imagine Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, but without any of the range.
Yeah.
He can only do one thing, and that became really obvious really quick.
Yeah.
I do love the idea of Uncut Gems starring Pauly Shore.
Yeah, so I you know what? It wasn't that late. I was already watching movies. And this is a movie I had watched several times growing up. I realized part of the reason why I watched it several times growing up is because early on in the movie, there's a lot of Joey Lauren Adams not wearing a bra. And as a teenage Jack was very excited about that. But the movie itself is absolutely insufferable. The comedy boils down to Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin making random grunt noises at each other and humping different things. It is absolutely a terrible, terrible, ungodly bad movie with no redeeming qualities whatsoever, except for it might have helped popularize the safety dance coming back into fashion, as there's an extended sequence using the safety dance.
Men without hats.
Men without hats. Men without
Men
safety
without hats.
dance. Yeah,
which doesn't seem very safe.
No, ironic, right? Man, when you think about it, they should be called the unsafety men.
Whoa!
Safety, is that a term? Yeah.
Those are the things that I watched last week. 3 out of 4 hits. I'm going to say that's a positive week.
Were any of them on a certain streaming service?
By the way, to be fair, Marty, you haven't seen Joe versus the Volcano.
I have not. No.
You can watch it for free right now on Tubi.
Incredible. Get out of town. I've seen the Nicolas Cage movie Joe, and I've seen Volcano starring Tommy Lee Jones. So does that count?
I thought that was the Pierce Brosnan one.
No, that's
Dante's Peak.
Very easy.
Which has an all-time scene where Grandma's got to get out of the canoe and push it to shore, and she fucking burns to death in the spicy lake. I think she dies.
Water can be hot too. Is the shock?
Yeah, water's too spicy. And Granny doesn't have a bunch of time left, so she might as well get in there and give it a push.
But I watched Joe versus the Volcano on Tubi. A slight mark against Tubi is then Tubi recommended I watch Biodome.
We have to teach you every once in a while. You could say no to Tubi. You could be like, I'm choosing not to watch this. I'll go.
Act quickly enough, you can stop the countdown on play next.
Jack is a man of commitment, and so if the movie, if it rolls over and the movie starts, he's like, "Well,
I'm in now."
I cannot. I think it should be illegal for autoplays to be that quickly. That when you finish something and the autoplay starts, because something will get fucked up and it'll autoplay, and I'm like, I'm not done with the first movie yet.
Yeah,
like there are post-credit scenes, or there's. Like, it's fine to have the little thing come up in the corner, but don't have it be a 5-second countdown. Like, people don't have their remotes on their lap when they're watching stuff.
Give us a little bit of credit time. Give us a little bit of digestation time. Like, come on. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tubi. I meant you're perfect. You're great. We would never say anything bad about you, Tubi.
They're not paying us yet.
We can. Number one sponsor.
By the way, this is not
future
paid.
sponsor.
This is not paid content, in case anybody's wondering.
We're doing charity work for Tubi right now.
We're doing what the Toxic Avenger is doing for medical debt. We are doing for Tubi.
Exactly.
I did try to reach out to Tubi again recently, and their contact me button is now disabled. You cannot.
Two unrelated facts. Two completely unrelated facts.
You can no longer contact them.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love it. A couple more super chats before we get over to what Darren's been watching. Nick, thank you so much for a $10 dono. Said, how about the ultimate connected universe, Tommy Westfall, where any common character or props pulls that show into the Saint Elsewhere universe and thus happens entirely in Tommy's head.
Yeah, which is incredible.
I think that universe is funny, but it's too easy for things to just exist within his head, you know. It's a little bit of a cop-out.
It's also one of those things where, like, it's a fun game to play with, in that, like, all that stuff could be inside the kid's head. But also, like, the fact that I can imagine, I don't know, like, Bill Clinton existing doesn't mean that Bill Clinton only exists inside my head. So, like, when a character crosses over, when Detective Munch pops up on the X-Files, it's entirely possible there's a real Detective Munch that this kid is imagining.
Sure. That's fair.
Which I love. That's a fun one. What's up, 84? Thank you so much for a $5 dono. The Conjuring 5, where it's revealed that they're faking the hauntings to lower property value so Paul Reiser can buy them up and lease them to Kramer. Listen, that's the next cinematic universe is the cinematic universe that can tie to other cinematic universes to create the cinematic megaverse.
Like I saw a tweet, and it is entirely correct. I wish I could credit the person responsible for this, but like, because of the box office success of Last Rites, the new milestone is going to be like the Conjuring 8, where Vera Farmiga watches a younger actor playing Lorraine in a movie version of The Conjuring. Like, the franchise is building to the point where it becomes like a nested house within houses, where like the Conjuring 8 is going to be about the making of the first Conjuring from the perspective of Ed and Lorraine Warren, sorry.
Yeah, that's a little too spot on. Oh no, I don't want any of this to happen.
And now, having said it out loud, I've willed it into being.
Oh,
like
no.
Annabelle, I've given it
Oh, I'm
power.
sad.
Yeah.
You've willed it into existence. Murray the Demonic Skull, thank you so much for a $5 dono. Best Emmerich movie is White House Down, aka the best Die Hard movie that isn't Die Hard 1 or 3 or Speed. Home baked cookies, bad for you, but so good.
The thing with White House Down is that comes out the same year as the other is it like Olympus Has Fallen?
Yeah,
same
Olympus
year.
Has Fallen. Yeah.
And I get the two of them mixed up, where like I think White House Down is Jamie Foxx and Channing Tatum, right? Where Jamie
Yes.
Foxx is Obama and Channing Tatum is like his limo driver or something, or
Sure.
maybe like a disgraced security, like Secret Service agent or whatever.
Yeah,
And then is
something
it
like that.
Olympus Has Fallen is like Jared Butler and Morgan Freeman, right? Or no,
Yes.
Aaron Eckhart.
Aaron Eckhart. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, and I get the two of them kind of conflated, where I think one of them has like James Woods as the bad guy, or am I misremembering? And it's like there are parts of each individual one of the two that I like, where it's like if I could take James Woods as the bad guy and put him in the other movie, like you would have some sort of super White House Siege movie instead of two adequate White House Siege movies. But yeah, I mean, the best Die Hard movie that is not 1 or 3 is not isn't. I don't think it's the highest bar to clear.
No, relatively low.
Fair.
Chat to the comments. It's Woods is the villain in White House Down. So I guess I want him to port over and fight Jared Butler in Olympus Has Fallen.
Well, there you go.
There you go. That's your dream project. Listen, we all dream big, and that's Darren's big dream. And then Raven back with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Raven. Jack! I always address you like this when you're on. I'm just excited to see you, and I think that you need to be more omnipresent in these videos.
Oh no.
Oh no.
You think you want more of me, but I'm a lot. I'm a
You want to get fully jacked.
I love it. Pure Pyro with a €2 dono. Thank you so much. My 2B recommendations are 11/22/63 and Fargo. 11/22/63 being the who was that man?
That was me.
That was you?
Wait, hold on. Can we go back? Can we roll it back?
That doesn't look like you.
That's
To
me.
be honest, that does not look like you.
By the way, that was my driver's license photo for 10 years.
Incredible. Yeah, so Fully Jacked is the new show. It's launching every second Thursday. It'll
There
feature
you go.
this Jack, that Jack from the driver's license, and I guess Jack Black of the Gen Z alphas love him.
Into the Jack verse. 11/22/63. That's the Stephen King miniseries about the guy James Franco goes back in time to the
Very good
Kennedy
miniseries.
assassination to try
Very
to stop
good
it.
miniseries.
And then Fargo. Fargo is Fargo.
Yeah.
And Fargo is good. Speaking of Fargo, Darren, you said you've been rewatching a little bit of Fargo.
Oh,
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I was watching all the Coen Brothers movies, and I got to the end because there is a finite amount of Coen Brothers movies. So I started rewatching Fargo because obviously we're at the moment we're talking about Alien. Also, quite enjoyed the last episode of Alien Earth. If anybody's been watching that, the one that is like the thing that Darren should hate, which is almost like a remake of the first Alien movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, which feels like the contractual obligation of, well, look, if you're making an Alien TV show, at least one episode has to be set in space. But it is so fascinating because like it is the best version of that, which is like written by somebody who saw Alien at like 7 years old and has lots of notes where it's like, what if they put Kane in the cryopod quickly? What if Ripley didn't decide quick enough? What if nobody figured out that Ash was an asshole until it was too late? What if there was more than one alien? And like that for me is the best version of like, oh, we gotta do like the alien thing, is like the one that's bristling with like stuff you've been thinking about since you were 10. And I will say like I'm all here for the eye monster. I am like,
I love the eye monster.
The eye monster is like, and again, this is the thing where it's like, you're like, no alien is ever going to replace the xenomorph. The xenomorph is always going to be classic and iconic, but yes, queen. The eye monster is stunning because it has like a personality already, despite not being able to talk. Where it is this monster, it's just an eye that burrows into your skull, replacing your eye and presumably like squudging your brain. But it has developed this interesting personality over the course of the show where it seems like nobody gets on with this fucker, which is just great. Where like one of the flaccid penis leeches tries to escape from captivity, and it just like bats the glass as if to draw attention. Look at that guy. Look at what he's doing. How come he gets out and I don't?
Yeah.
And there's a moment later on where like when a human character is threatening the creature, it like screams and summons the xenomorph. And when the xenomorph doesn't kill the human, it just leaps and starts attacking the xenomorph instead. It is so great. It's like
a wild card.
such an anti-social. Like, it's like, imagine there was like a species like the alien species, but everybody fucking hated this guy. It's like,
all right, you're hooking me back in. You're hooking me back in.
But yeah, so I was watching Fargo because obviously that's Noah Hawley and obviously that's the Coens. And I was quite surprised going back to it, given how, because we were talking about how, as much as I'm enjoying Alien Earth, I'm not sure it's going to go full Noah Hawley. It's going to go full weird. And I will say, rewatching the first season of Hawley's Fargo, I was surprised at like how much that is very well made, very stylish, very engaging, very well cast, very well written. But it is much more, we're doing a tie-in to Fargo. It is much more, we're recreating scenes from Fargo, we're repeating lines from Fargo, our characters are archetypes very similar to Fargo, and while it tells its own story and it has its own themes, and I think it's very good, compared to what it becomes in like season 2 in particular, but then season 3, 4, and 5, it's like it does feel like a rough kind of pencil drawing that is halfway between the most cynical version of let's do a Fargo TV show and the Fargo TV show that I love so much. And I will say that kind of made me more enthusiastic for Alien Earth, where it's like, maybe this season won't contain an episode narrated by John Hamm about like how insanity is viral, but maybe season 2 will. And I'm on board with that. So yeah, really, 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 really enjoy it. In terms of,
I'm still enjoying that, and I'm still enjoying Peacemaker. And let me tell you, I'm starting to get worried about my theory that this alternate universe isn't racist.
I mean, you might technically be correct, Marty. There may not be any racism in that universe right now.
It's a bad hill to die on. It's just an awful hill to die on for me.
I did admire how committed you were to that idea, by the way. Yeah. But yeah,
I haven't been this wrong about a show since. Oh my god, what was the guy's name on the first season of House of Dragon? Crabman?
Oh yeah, you were all in on like the Crab Eater, whatever. The Crab Eater, there we go. Yeah,
I was like, this guy's gonna be the big bad. This is gonna be my new favorite character. This is the new greatest Game of Thrones character. I'm like, this man's got the juice to last several seasons, and I think he died off screen.
He's decapitated by Matt Smith off screen midway through the 3rd episode, if I remember correctly.
Oh dang, he's great though. Shout out to Krabby.
Yeah, and yeah, Peacemaker continues to be very good, but yeah, it does feel. I've seen slightly more than you guys have, but it's not revealed what exactly is going on. But it does feel like the subtext of this is a universe where the racist family of Peacemaker are perfectly happy because they live in a universe where all people of color simply do not exist. Like there's a line in the first episode where like the Kardashians don't exist in this universe. And like then you start noticing that all of the characters are white. And you've also noticed that like none of Chris's like friends of color are around, and he hasn't noticed yet. So there is like this definite vibe without saying anything. And it's not a spoiler to say that because it's just based on what we've seen so far. But there is this vibe of there is an unspoken like this is the universe that like Peacemaker's father wanted, and that is why he's happy. That is
so sometimes your theories are wrong. Everyone makes theories, and sometimes you strike out several times in a row.
Sometimes you go all in on like a scene where a character has 2 lines of dialogue, and you're like, I'm pinning my colors to the mast right now.
Listen, I called my shot once with Avatar 2. I was like, it's going to make $2 billion. The safest bet of all time. And then it happened, and I thought I could just call every shot from then on. And I was
which
wrong.
You didn't even go and see, which continues to be.
I don't need to. Babe Ruth, if you call a home run and you point to outfield, you don't need to hit the home run. You did it. You made the call. You just walk away. That's how baseball works.
That's
right.
Exactly how baseball works. You did it.
Darren, what else? What else have you been watching?
Just to run through very quickly. Nobody 2 is on streaming. It is obviously a sequel to Nobody, starring Kirk. I have mixed feelings about this franchise. I thought the first one was okay. I mean, Odenkirk is really charming, is a large part of the like appeal of these movies. And it's like really fun to see Odenkirk in that, where it's it's not like watching an action movie where Liam Neeson, who has like the reach of a giraffe, is like, oh my god, can you believe that Liam Neeson is able to beat up all these people who are half his size? It is admittedly interesting to see the guy from Mr. Show reimagined as an action hero, and his father is played by Christopher Lloyd. I will say I do have a little bit of a tension with both like Nobody and Nobody 2 around the question of like, with these movies, these Jerry action movies in particular, but these revenge fantasies, there is in modern contemporary American cinema this like sullen-faced, we want you to know that we know that it's not cool that these men are doing that they're like acting out their anxieties through violence and combat while making the violence and combat look incredibly cool, which is great. I love really cool action sequences, but like Nobody and Nobody 2 kind of skirt the line of being like, just so you're clear here, we're shaking our heads very disappointedly at all the really cool action scenes that are happening right now. And there obviously that is part of the joke. There is an irony at play there, a tension in casting Bob Odenkirk as the guy who's just like, you know what? I really wish I didn't have to do all of these cool action scenes. But there is a point where, as an audience member, 2 films in, you're kind of like, you know, you could just do it without like pretending like you feel bad about it afterwards, or pretending like it's a bad thing that you're doing it. You can kind of just embrace the camp aspect of it. I will say, I appreciate a movie that is largely about like how your bad dad will mess you up for life and how you're constantly trying to recover from the failures that your father heaps upon you. Stars Colin Hanks as a corrupt hick sheriff. I thought that was a wonderful, clever bit of casting. And also it's nice to see Sharon Stone get to do something. Like, Sharon Stone is an actor who I think has been poorly served throughout her career. Like, when she's given good stuff, she rises to the opportunity, and here she's given like an opportunity to choose some scenes. So I had a really, really good time watching her.
Yeah, I
But
haven't seen this one yet. I enjoyed the first Nobody though.
yeah, I mean, like they're not awful, but there is that
No.
sense of I just kind of wish you could pick a lane. Like, you could either
Yeah.
be disappointed that your character is committed to violence, or you could just enjoy the violence. And it's a thing that happens in all the Taken movies. It happens in the Equalizer movies as well. The Equalizer movies are particularly like egregious examples, because that's like 2 hours of Denzel Washington like staring solemnly at his notebook as he like reads The Old Man and the Sea and like teaches people how to like jog and all that sort of stuff. And then at the end, like a solid 30 minutes of him being the most ruthless, murdering bastard you have ever seen. And at the end going, it's really sad that I had to do that incredibly complex committed action choreography, isn't it? But yeah, so like Nobody's not the worst example of it, but like at a long run, I did find myself a bit tired. Otherwise, The Roses, which is obviously the remake of The War of the Roses, directed by Jay Roach, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman. Very strange movie. Did not really work for me at all. It did not work for me at all because it has that weird thing where, despite being written by an Australian, Tony McNamara, directed by an American, Jay Roach, it is very aggressively trying to be British, in that it is about a pair of British actors playing British characters who have moved from London to the United States. And so much of the movie is like weirdly closer to Austin Powers than Meet the Parents for Jay Roach, which is a very odd choice, where like a lot of this is, man, aren't British people weird? How they passive aggressively like engage in conversation with one another, and how it's very hard to tell when British people like each other or when they actually hate each other, because they maintain that very icy, very arch, very witty dialogue. And it feels very shallow and very surface level to me. And it is that thing that is at odds. We've talked about in the podcast before with like obviously Marty's difficulty with Ardman, but that idea of there being 2 very different styles of humor, in American humor and British humor. And one of the big issues with me for The Roses is the idea of it is an American project that is trying to ape the tone of British humor, which is very arch, very wry, very dark, very cynical. But the movie itself isn't ever sure how far it can go in that direction, which is very strange and very frustrating. It is kind of like, it reminds me a lot of the first half season or so of like The American Office, where, remember, it took a while for that show to find its tone, because it was obviously borrowing very heavily from the British Office. And like, I think once The Office figured out that it was an American comedy, and once it figured out that's what it was doing, it was a lot stronger. But there was a while at the start where it was like trying to be a little darker and weirder. and it didn't work. The
Yeah.
Roses has that sort of like same sensibility to me, unfortunately. And I say that like having rewatched The War of the Roses, the Danny DeVito movie, which is entirely American and entirely dark, but also like works better because it has a better management of its own tone. Um, Also saw Honey Don't, the new Ethan Coen movie, which Honey Maybe, I guess, which weirdly enough is one of the more positive reviews that movie has received, where everybody seems to hate that movie, and I'm just like, yeah, it's grand. It's fine. Yeah,
But by the way, all of these things that you're talking about seeing in the theaters, this is why I did not go out into theaters.
Yeah.
We're like the Roses, the Honey Don't,
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll notice, by the way, that none of these are raves. Like, Jack, you need to drop what you're doing right now and go see the new Trisha Cook, Ethan Coen, lesbian sex rom-com Los Angeles, California noir.
That is, by the way, that ticks so many of my boxes where I should love this movie, but everyone is saying,
Yeah, I mean, it is that thing where you can tell it's weird. The divorce of the Coens is so fascinating. Where I actually really love Macbeth, Joel Coen's Macbeth. I am more of a Joel guy than an Ethan guy. It turns out, but like I don't begrudge Ethan doing his weird. Like, obviously he did. Was it Honey Don't, and he also did Driveway Dolls or Driveway Dykes, as it was originally called. But like it's very clear in the divorce that like Joel got Francis and formalism, and Ethan got like the dildo chair from like Burn After Reading. And like Ethan, obviously Joel has this very keen grasp of formalism. Macbeth is this very rigid, very stylized German expressionist adaptation of a Shakespeare play starring Francis McDormand and Denzel Washington. It is the most formalist classical film thing you can imagine. Whereas Ethan's are quite literally, if you go to like Driveway Dolls, a script he wrote in the 90s and was sitting in a drawer, and he took it out and had some dust on it. It was like, let's make this. But Honey Don't has a similar sort of thing where it is a whole bunch of crazy ideas thrown into a pot and stirred, but with no structure or framework applied to them, where when you get to the third act of the movie, it feels like the movie just ends because, well, we've eaten up 80 minutes of screen time, and I guess the character who is appearing in this scene is going to be the culprit responsible for all of the crime in the movie, because I guess we got to roll the credits, we only got so much budget, we only got so much time. But despite that, I actually found myself weirdly charmed by it just as a mood piece, where it more than Driveway Dolls, which I found Driveway Dolls like very charming. It's a very light film, but it's a very like affectionate, very sweet film, very sincere film. It again has the same problem of not having any structure, not really having any stakes, not really having any sense of building action and a sense of ending because, well, hey, we've had fun these past 90 minutes, but we gotta roll out of here now.
Yeah.
Honey Don't, to its credit, feels like it has more big ideas, and it has more big ideas about like things around gender, for example, and things around violence, and things around a culture of like toxic masculinity and the idea of like internalized misogyny, where like there is this pervasive sense of like being a private investigator trying to solve a crime in a world where everything is a crime, where everything is broken, and the kind of fruitlessness of trying to solve or resolve or tie a neat bow on anything in a world where nothing makes sense. And it is strangely dark. It is very goofy and it's very silly, and it has all of the sex toys. Again, you can tell which Coen was responsible for what part of Bird After Reading. But like underneath it all, it has like a cynicism that reminds me a lot of No Country for Men, where it's like the movie's resolution is that, well, in the end, all people are the same. They're terrible. Like, it's like nobody is different. Everybody pretends to be different. Everybody pretends to be unique. But when you strip it down, every abusive father is the same abusive father. Every exploitative man in a position of authority is an exploitative man in a position of authority. There's a moment where like the character solves the case by having a bus driver pull up to the bus stop where she's sitting, look at her and go, we're all pretty much the same, and then drive off. And you're like, I see the theme that you are articulating here, Ethan Coen and Patricia Cook. But it is so committed to that idea that I found myself like strangely charmed by it. It feels more cohesive and more like a traditional movie than Drive Away Dolls did. Again, not a recommendation. Still a huge mess of a movie, still doesn't really cohere, still doesn't have a clean story structure, and still struggles a bit with tone. but is, I think, much more interesting to me than Drive-Away Dolls was. And I thought Drive-Away Dolls was.
I think in a couple months I'm going to eat well on streaming is what it sounds like. Like I feel like, oh, if I don't have to leave my house, like these are something I can watch without like the pressure of putting on pants or whatever.
Listen, Ethan Coen would prefer you watch his movies without pants.
Right. And
a dressing gown and a white Russian.
Yeah.
Sir John Arbuckle, that is a Happy Gilmore 2's Margaret Qualley.
That is Death Stranding's Margaret Qualley.
that is also like, Drive-Away Dolls, Margaret Qualley. And again, like we talk about like Nepo babies. I like that Qualley is using her Nepo baby status to do interesting things where she's doing the substance and she's doing this stuff. Yeah. And it is like an interesting choice for a young actor to make, to be like, no, I'm going to star in a trilogy seemingly of like lesbian exploitation crime films directed by one half of the greatest team of directors to ever work. Sorry, Marty.
No, that's what happens when your mom co-starred in the second greatest time loop movie ever. Clearly, it's not Palm Springs. I really like Groundhog Day. I don't know why I was doing that. I don't know why I'm picking on Groundhog Day. I love Groundhog Day.
I love, by the way, that it's like I was digging into Andy McDowell's filmography, otherwise rock solid, looking for the weak link, and I was like, Groundhog Day. That seems like the obvious target. Yeah. And then finally, just a movie that I actually saw that is coming out this week that I actually really, really, really liked and would recommend, but you couldn't have seen it last weekend, so it doesn't count, Jack. The Long Walk, the new Francis Lawrence film.
That's definitely something I want to go deep into the next episode because I'm very excited for this. But what did you think without spoilers? I mean, I guess you can't spoil it.
Well, I mean, it's about a like the clue is the title. Like it's a movie that kind of like sells its premise in its 3-word title. It's about a long walk. No, it is, as the title implies, about a long. It is like interesting that we're getting this and The Running Man, like the two Stephen King forward movement Richard Bachman adaptations in the same calendar year. But yeah, it is Francis Lawrence, who's the guy who's responsible for the I Am Legend movie starring Will Smith, for Constantine starring Keanu Reeves, and for a large portion of the Hunger Games franchise. And it is a story about a dystopian future America where there is, and stop me if any of this sounds like it's familiar or might be subtext in the context of the novel's like 1970s publication, but a story about a draft in which the young men of the country are enlisted to take part in a seemingly pointless endeavor where they march forwards towards an undefined finish line, facing bullet after bullet after bullet until at some vague point we declare that there's a victor and it happens to be the last man standing. If any of that sounds familiar to you, I've got no idea what you're talking about. This is clearly not about any specific thing that happened in the 1970s. But yeah, it is a Vietnam parable. But it's a stunning piece of work. It is obviously a parable. It is King writing in full parable mode. We'll probably talk about it in more depth next week, but like King is a huge fan of Shirley Jackson, the horror writer. In particular, I think he's expressed a huge fondness for The Lottery. This is very much the same sort of vein as The Lottery. Like The Lottery, I think, has a moment where like a character being stoned shouts, "It's not fair, it's not fair." In the screenshot that Eric has there, the character is shouting, "It's not fair, it's not fair." But it is this beautiful metaphor for, well, so many things, where it is obviously it's about Vietnam specifically. More broadly, it's about like the American dream and the rat race, like except run at a civil pace. It is about the process of creation. I think like when I watch the movie, I think about that story that King used to tell about like he wrote this while he was in high school and while he was in college and while he was trying to get books published and they were all being turned down, and he would just continue writing and kind of toiling away at it before he found success. And that is kind of what The Last Walk is about. It's the idea, it's The Long Walk, where it's just you just keep walking and you keep moving forward. It is like a dramatization of the advice that he gives in both Danse Macabre and on writing about like how you should write, which is also key to understanding Stephen King. If you're wondering how Stephen King can write like 5 books in a year, that is how Stephen King does it. One foot in front of the other. And he doesn't always have a clear finish line in sight. In fact, that feels like a very astute comment on like how most of King's novels resolve. But it is also like a profoundly like humanist story. I found myself deeply moved by it. It obviously is a very interesting movie for Lawrence to make after making so many Hunger Games movies. And we talked there about like a moment ago about like the tension I have with like Nobody and other action movies where it's like we're going to be very serious and we want you to contemplate the weight of this horror that is happening, but also it looks really freaking cool. And like the big tension for me personally with the Hunger Games has always been the tension between, on the one hand, we are televising the mass murder of children and broadcasting it to a population, and that is horrific. And what does that say about us as a culture that we consume it both in the context of the book and most of those movies are like really cool action scenes in which you get to watch Jennifer Lawrence deal with those snotty asshole kids who really have it coming. And so there is this kind of push and pull of like being like, well, we want you to feel the real weight and tragedy of a society in decline, but also you want to see Jennifer Lawrence work that bow and arrow, don't you? And I think The Long Walk works for me so well because it manages to do what I want something like The Hunger Games to do, which is to take all the glamour out, where walking in a straight line until you can walk no more is perhaps the most uncinematic depiction of like a physical endurance sport imaginable.
Yeah.
But it ends up being this incredibly riveting. And because of that, because you're not like rooting for Cooper Hoffman to hit 4 miles an hour, you're not pumping his fist in the air as he like reaches the downhill slope. You have this really interesting exploration of like, no, this is actually grueling and suffering. It is, to my mind, maybe Darren says, the best cinematic adaptation of Stephen King since The Mist. Now, I will accept Doctor Sleep is a potential contender in there, but like outside of Doctor Sleep, I can't think of another King adaptation that stuck with me since The Mist.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I know for King adaptations, something that came up earlier is that 11/29/63.
Yes.
But I also know that he did not finish that book. I think very famously, his son is who finished it for him.
Oh, Joe Hill, isn't it? Joe Hill is his
Yeah. When you have a son who's also like an accomplished writer, it's like, well, that's good. I could just be
which is why like
I got him back in time. You get him back forward in time. It's fine.
Well, that's one of those things.
Like how
like,
the Coens did with Bad Santa was like they had a bunch of writers. No, a bunch of the writers were like, we'd love to write a Coen Brothers movie, and the Coens were like, you know, we generally direct our own movies, but we have this idea for a movie with a Santa who's bad, and it's like, if you guys can do that and make it work, you guys can have that one, and that's where Bad Santa came from.
I love that.
Really funny.
But yeah, I'm excited to see this one. Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson. I'm big fans of both of them.
Johnson's incredible. Like again, he was very good in Alien Rom, like the beating heart of that movie. And it's like you look at this and you look at that and you're like, yeah, this guy is. If there's any justice in the world, that guy is a star. Like if we as a society are in any way functional, and looking around, maybe we're not, but like in the next 10 years, David Johnson will be like a household name. He's and obviously he's opposite Cooper Hoffman, who has like inherited the genes of maybe the greatest character actor to ever do it. So it's not as if like he's unchallenged in this movie. I think they're both great.
Did you watch Industry? Well? Did you ever watch Industry, the HBO show?
I did not. Okay. Like I was watching Succession, and I wasn't watching Succession going, you know what, this needs more sex.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about Industry. I know some people like go gaga for it, but David Johnson is incredible, and that's like the first time I've been like, I don't know who this is, and I put him on my radar, and then he popped up in Alien in Romulus as the cyborg.
Andy the android.
What are the terms? Andy the android. God damn it! I thought it was Connie the cyborg. Not to be confused with Henry the hybrid. Sometimes you get really excited and you just want to race to the joke. Excited for the long walk. I know another thing you saw, Darren, that I saw. Wait, did you see Highest to Lowest? I don't know why I said that.
I did.
Okay, I just assumed after you shamed me for not going to the theaters.
It would be a bit rude of me to be like, I watched all this stuff, but the new Spike Lee didn't seem like a priority.
Gave it a little pass. What did you think of Highest Lowest, which is the new Denzel Washington Spike Lee directed movie remake of Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, which is now streaming on Apple TV.
I liked it a lot. It is so fascinating because it is a movie of two halves, and very deliberately of two halves, and feels almost trollishly of two halves. Where, for those who don't know, it's an adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, as you mentioned. That is the story of a businessman whose son is kidnapped, except it turns out that his son wasn't kidnapped. It was actually like his factotum, his, like, in this case, his driver's son who was kidnapped. Mm-hmm. And you have this kind of moral dilemma of like, well, sure, you would pay any amount of money to get your son back. But would you pay any amount of money to get like your friend's son back? Like, would you risk all of that for them? And for the first half of the movie, it feels like a quote unquote like late movie from a famous auteur. I'm thinking, for example, of we mentioned like Friedkin's like Exorcist, we mentioned The French Connection, but I'm thinking of like his Kane Mutiny Court Martial, which is like as a director gets older and as they become more set in their ways and as they become a lot less active, they're like, can we make a movie where everybody just sits in a room and has conversations with one another and I don't have to go outside? So a lot of the first half of the movie is like Denzel Washington and Jeffrey Wright and Dean Winters, who I love so much and I'm delighted to see. But it's characters like inside an apartment, taking phone calls, having arguments, taking meetings. It's like business and offices and all this sort of stuff. It stars Denzel Washington as a record executive who is trying to get together enough capital to buy the stake of his co-owners in the business before they sell it to an AI licensing company. And for the first half, it is very staid, very respectable, very, long conversations, philosophical, weighty dialogue. Denzel is doing his thing, Wright is doing his thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's all very abstract and academic.
I think it
And
helps
you're like-
that it's also that entire first half is almost all shot in that like gorgeous penthouse in Dumbo, like right across the Brooklyn Bridge. And so you see literally out the massive windows, you see the Manhattan skyline. It's like if you have to set half a movie in largely one location, having it set there is a pretty good one location.
Yeah. And like, I want to be clear, I'm enjoying that half of the movie. I'm like, this is very mature. It's very relaxed. It's like, this is not like the young, vibrant Spike Lee that I know and love.
Yeah.
And then Lee just like grabs the rug and pulls it out from under you when he like Denzel Washington leaves the apartment almost halfway through the movie, and all of a sudden it's like that bit in Pulp Fiction where like you stab a needle full of adrenaline into the heart of Uma Thurman, and the movie just takes off. And it's like Lee is almost mocking you as an audience member for thinking that he might have lost a step or settled into being an old man director, where like it's in the middle of, is it the Puerto Rico Day? Like
it's a Puerto Rican Day parade. Yeah.
Yeah, festivities that are happening. There's a hostage exchange, like on a train that involves the emergency brake. There's a car chase. There's like vigilante violence. It is like so aggressively dynamic and like kinetic and moving. And all of a sudden, Lee starts doing again all of the stuff that you love Lee doing, where he's playing with the camera. There is a moment towards the end of this movie where he does like a split screen that morphs into a single shot, which is one of the most stunning, like, cinematic visuals I have seen this year on a big screen. And it is, like, breathtaking. And I like the movie a lot. Part of me is like, I understand that the magic trick of the movie is lulling me into that false sense of security for the first hour before you do all this crazy stuff. But part of me is also like, I just wish you were doing crazy stuff for like 2 hours instead of 1 hour at the end of it. I liked it a lot. I had a really, really good time with it. And like it's Denzel and Spike Lee having fun in New York. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, and it's Spike Lee might be the greatest director of a city ever. Yeah. Like that dude loves New York more than I will ever love anything in my life, and it comes through in his movies like so incredibly well. And even just like the little asides of the train that the money exchange is supposed to be on is a train heading into Yankee Stadium, and so you have these hordes and hordes of Yankees fans who are on there, and they all start cheering, "Let's go Yankees!"
Brother.
Yeah, and they all start cheering like "Let's go Yankees, fuck Boston!" And the dude leading the cheer starts screaming it at the camera, like breaking the fourth wall. And I'm like, I really love, because he's done this in movies. He did this in 25th Hour. Like he does that's just like a thing. He's got filmmaking techniques that he just reuses. He reuses he'll show an intimate moment and he'll replay the moment from a different angle. So like two characters will come in for a hug and he'll show the hug and then cut to a different angle and show the hug again. And it's just
the double dolly shot, which is the iconic Spike Lee shot, which is like levitating, a character almost levitating through his scene.
Yeah, and having that happens with there's the part near the end with A$AP Rocky and Denzel, where you get the split of that and you're like, holy shit. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I have one weird complaint, and this is going to be I'm going to say a slight spoiler, because it is, I wish the movie had ended on a different scene. And so a very slight spoiler for this.
Okay.
I wish the movie had the scene where it ends, which is Denzel Washington has found like a new
Yeah.
he wants to start his own record company now and
You think
start
we
from
can work the
scratch.
title in here maybe somehow?
Yeah.
Maybe elegantly
And
nobody will notice?
yeah, and it's really nice. He's found this young artist that his son put him on to, and she has this gorgeous voice and sang this song, and she's like, "This is gonna be my first signing." And I wish the next scene was him going for a walk across the bridge alone with his headphones on, listening to the ASAP Rocky song. Of being like, this is actually, I'm going to sign this girl, and I think she has a great voice, but the music I really give a shit about is the guy who's doing Life in
But this
Prison
is
now.
staying with me. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
staying
I
with me.
kind of wish that was the final moment of the movie, especially when they, when his wife early on says like, listen, I fell in love with you because you'd always be late for our dates, but it was because you were walking there listening to music, and you'd come and you'd be so excited about this new artist to tell me about. And I kind of was hoping the movie would end on that less saccharine turn as opposed to where the movie ends now, which is very saccharine. But I still think a very enjoyable movie. So sorry, spoilers out.
No, I found it a very sweet movie as well. Like it does feel a bit like Lee being like, "Am I out of touch?" And like in an achingly sincere way. It's very telling that the young, like up and coming artist, who by the way is called Young Felon, lives in apartment A24. Like there is a real sense of like Spike Lee being like, "No, wait, am I out of touch? Am I the one who is out of touch with modern culture?" And because obviously that Denzel character is meant to be a stand-in for Lee. It's this: I live in a penthouse. I'm not part of the city. I'm disconnected from. Can I still go out into the city, and can I still have this experience? I found it very sweet. I found it like really charming, and like for a movie about a kidnapping. But I found it really sweet.
Just it sounds to me like another one of those reasons why it's like Apple Plus continues to put out amazing things that just not a lot of people will watch.
No. Yeah, they like literally are patrons of like some of our greatest older filmmakers of like, here's, let's give Scorsese and Ridley Scott like these sort of open checkbooks to make whatever you want.
As long as they want open canvas, like the one condition we'll put is that the theatrical cut of like Napoleon has to be 2.5 hours long, which by the way, I love that it's like the limit is 2.5. You can't go to 4. 4 is unreasonable, Ridley. You can do that on streaming.
Yeah. Very funny. Darren, you watch anything else?
I think that's about it. I also rewatched The Dead Zone, the 1983 Cronenberg movie, starring
Christopher
like
Walken.
Christopher Walken, which is just a great little movie. It's so odd that arrives like that is between Videodrome and The Fly in Cronenberg's filmography. He just makes this weird character study. Again, you mentioned the Kennedy assassination movie, the 11/22/68. Like the Kennedy assassination serving as like a haunting, like a thing that like lurks in King's subconscious, where it's like, can we make a movie where Lee Harvey Oswald is the hero? And what if we told a movie from Lee Harvey Oswald's perspective? And it is so fascinating because it is like such a quiet movie by Cronenberg standards, such a character-driven story by King's standards. I think he wrote this after The Stand. I like that movie a lot. I think, it's not a masterpiece. It's not the best thing either of them have ever done, but it's just like a solid 4-star programmer. And obviously, my man Christopher Walken in a lead role, I'm going to turn out for anyway.
He's great. That's a good poster. Look at that poster.
Why
don't we make posters like that anymore?
It's done like that sequence where they're just walking through the pitch black tunnel with like the shiny surface and the light is bouncing off it is one of the best things Cronenberg has ever shot. And Cronenberg has shot some of the most beautiful images ever put on screen. That sequence that Eric has there, like it's an entire sequence that just looks like that. And it is stunning because it is so beautiful, so austere, and like so minimalist by the standards of Cronenberg and by King.
That's the most fascinating thing about the movie is it's Stephen King and David Cronenberg, and it's such a slow, subtle movie where it's like, wait, where's my goop? I came here for goop.
There's no goo in the movie. There's arguably no goo.
Like it is structured as like 4 separate episodic adventures of this guy, and you could tell like obviously Michael Piller went on to do the TV show that was on UPN or whatever, but like it is so fascinating because like the whole point is like the episodic structure catches you off guard for the thing that Darren has spoiled by describing what the movie actually is, which is like, what if we told a story from the perspective of Lee Harvey Oswald? But like the fact that it takes so long to get there really lets you kind of root and kind of like marinade in the character and the world. So you don't realize that's what's happening until it kind of happens, which is interesting. It's such an interesting companion piece to, we mentioned Scorsese earlier, but like I was thinking of Taxi Driver while watching it, which is this idea of like the weird stuff that was like simmering through the collective consciousness. But yeah, I really, really, really like that. I went back and revisited it because I think that was the book that he published after he published The Long Walk. So I was like, let's see where King's head was around the time that he was doing it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
This checks out. Yeah.
The
That
thing
wasn't a
that
Bachman.
directly
Dead Zone
led
was a
to
King
Vietnam,
book,
yeah.
right?
Sorry?
Dead Zone was a King book. That wasn't a Bachman book,
Yeah.
right?
No, that was a proper King book. Yeah. No, and that was like the thing about like The Long Walk was one of the ones he wrote early. And he basically like he dug it out after he was successful.
That's right.
God.
And he did it under a different name as if like to prove that he could be successful without the name King. Like there's a real like screw all you guys who rejected this book in the 1970s vibe to it, which is like, I'm going to prove to you that this is a good book by not only using my clout to get it published, getting it published under somebody else's name and having it be a bestseller, which is the level of pettiness that you really want all of your artists to aspire to.
Honestly, kind of. Yeah, kind of. I do want that.
I respect it. I just had a few things I watched. I got caught up on they just released the next 4 episodes of Pokemon Concierge on Netflix. Jack, do you know anything about this?
I do. Lovely little vignettes, right?
Yeah. Short, like 10, 15-minute episodes that are not Ardman-like. Don't compare it to Ardman. I don't want anyone comparing this to Ardman. But none
of that's British stuff. None of that.
None of that British shit. Although they're working on. Are you sure they're British? They're not French? Because in my mind, they're French.
Anything's possible.
Pretty sure,
in my argument,
pretty sure it's Nick Park who's British, but I'll go to the fact machine and check that while you talk about.
Okay,
how much
we'll go to our respective libraries afterwards, and we'll do a little research. But yeah, Pokemon Concierge is like a stop motion, like very handcrafted. These short little vignettes about it's this girl who got out of a shitty relationship and moves to like. Sells all of her belongings and goes to work at this like a Hawaiian resort for Pokemon. And it's like a spa getaway for Pokemon. And she goes there and has these little adventures every week working there with a different Pokemon and different sets of creatures. And it is just, it reminds me so much of Bluey in that the episodes are incredibly sweet. If there is drama, the drama is easily solved. It all ends on a happy note. There's good messaging throughout it. It's cute without like speaking down to its audience. Like it never feels like it's like for children. It just feels like we want to tell like a really sweet, sincere story that obviously looks great because I think a lot of stop motion animation stuff like this looks great. But I think it's really cool. I have no idea what the plan for this is because there's 8 episodes currently. The most recent 4 just got released on Netflix. I also don't know what how this is going to tie into not tie in, but if it's going to be impacted at all by, like we mentioned, the Ardman series, the Sir Farfetch'd and Pichu series that is coming out from Ardman, which I'm also very excited for. What if I just become a big Ardman guy? Would that be is that character growth?
Something like the Ardman IP stuff as well. It's like
sure.
You would love it. I think I know you well enough to where you would love it so much, and you refuse to.
I do a thing where at some point I decided I didn't like a thing, and I just don't investigate it further. And I was like that with the first Gladiator movie, Gladiator 1. I was like, this is overrated. This movie's not good.
But like you say that though, as if you had like a wealth of Gladiator adjacent material to interrogate, as if like every other week, like people were talking about the new Gladiator TV show and the new Gladiator sequel. It's like no, I cashed out on the Gladiator franchise.
But then Gladiator 2 came out, and I was like, I guess I'll rewatch Gladiator, and I'm watching. I'm like, oh, this movie fucking rips. This movie's good. So I don't know what just caught me on a bad day, and I held a grudge against it, I guess.
At the first opportunity, though, is the key thing there.
All it took, that's what I'm saying. All it takes, I think I needed a push to finally do it. And Gladiator 2 was my push for Gladiator 1, and Sir Farfetch'd is my push for Ardman. So
there you go.
And is Gladiator 3 going to be your push for Gladiator 2 is the question.
I saw Gladiator 2. I'm fine. I think I'm fine without any more Gladiator. To be honest, as much as I love Denzel and the monkey, whose name I forgot the name of, but I like the monkey as well. Like Sir Didymus? No, that's the name of the guy in Labyrinth. well, whatever the monkey's name was. He was great. Excellent. And then the last anime thing, really quick. I've been talking the last couple of weeks on streams. I've now finished the entirety of this late 2000s series called The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, including its follow-up movie called The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. And what I want to talk about is specifically a single arc in the second season that is arguably the most controversial arc in anime history, because the series is about this high school girl named Haruhi who is unknowingly a god. She has the power to remake reality but doesn't realize it, and she's kind of temperamental, and so on a whim she tries to create things to spice up her life. And these will be like, the earth is in trouble, there are monsters attacking, and she does it because she's just bored. And so and her friends around her kind of realize this, and so they have to like appease her and like make her life interesting in order to prevent the world from ending. First season was a big hit, people loved it. Second season starts, it's like, how do you follow up this crazy hit? There is an 8-episode arc called The Endless 8. And the first episode of it, and it's called Endless 8-1, Endless 8-2, Endless 8-3, it's an episode about the last 2 weeks of summer. And it's really great. It's a really great episode where it's like this great slice of life. She wants to cram in as many activities for the last 2 weeks of summer. And so they go to the swimming pool, they have a picnic, they go bug hunting, they go to the batting cages, they see fireworks, they go to a festival. It's like great. They have like the best 2 weeks. At the end of it, she's like, I feel like there's like something we're missing. And they're all like, we've had such a busy 2 weeks. Let's just fucking rest tomorrow. And it's like, okay. The episode ends. The next episode begins. It's 2 weeks left in summer. It is all reanimated, different camera angles. It feels like a different tone, but it is largely the exact same script, the exact same actions. And the reveal is that Haruhi, because she's not happy with how summer turns out, is unconsciously caused them to be in a time loop. So sorry, Groundhog's Day is the third best time loop ever. This is the second. Palm Springs is number one. Haruhi unknowingly has put them in a time loop, but there's one of the characters in the show who is this sort of like a human-looking, a young girl-looking android who remembers every time loop. And when the characters finally ask her about it, they're like, what is going on? I'm having deja vu. And she's like, we're in a time loop. And they're like, how many times have we done this? And she says 16,000 times. She says, we've been doing this for 600 years. And while every character forgets at the end of the time loop, this android has to remember every time. And so she has like 16.
I never brought it up before,
and has never brought it up, and has like 500 years of having to relive these 2 weeks in her memory. But the thing is, you get that reveal in the second episode. The third episode starts, last 2 weeks of summer. The fourth episode starts, last 2 weeks of summer. The fifth episode starts. They keep doing it, and you keep being like, they gotta figure a way out of this, right? And it's the same actions, like I said, completely reanimated. This is not a like cost-cutting measure. It is completely reanimated, but it is 8 episodes in a row of the exact same 25-minute plot that people at the time wanted to fucking like. The show went from being like the 5th highest ranked show on my anime list to like the 7,000th, because people were like, this is the worst thing anyone has ever done to their audience. In hindsight, I think it's genius, because by the end of it, it's the first time loop to ever make me feel like I am stuck in the loop with them. Yeah. And like when they finally do leave it by the end, I like almost wanted to cry, because I'm like, thank Christ we've gotten out of this. And I've just never experienced, like, it is a piece of art that is, I never want to watch that again, but I am so glad I did. And I'm just like curious about like art that like pushes you to like the actual like physical limits. Yeah. Which I guess there could have been, we missed our screenings of The Long Walk, where they had those promo screenings where you had to walk on a treadmill the whole time. That's pushing it to the limits. Did you see that? You had to like maintain a 3 mile an hour
or you would be escorted out of the cinema.
Kick you out of the theaters. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Mark Hamill does not shoot you in the head.
Well, that's very nice. Yeah.
It sounds to me like they are using their medium to its highest point, right? Where it's like, obviously a time loop movie, we know we're all leaving after a couple hours, but here, because it's episodic, they get to really push and pull. And Yeah,
And in real time, people watch. It was 2 months. Every
yeah.
week you'd tune in and it'd be the same episode. And this is a 12-episode season.
yeah.
And so you're like, is this just the rest of my life? Like,
That's brilliant.
yeah.
That's
I love the
brilliant.
calling
Really
of the
impressive.
shot with the endless ape, by the way, as well, where you're just turning it on the first time. Poor, innocent, naive Marty being like, the endless ape. What a whimsical title.
Yeah. And then I watched last night. I watched the follow-up movie, which is great, and in my opinion, kind of makes that whole time loop worth it because a lot of it is about that android character I mentioned having to deal with the fact that I did this same thing. I'm the only one who remembers having to do this 15,000 times, and so like this fucked me up. And dealing with ramifications of that, I thought was really great. So. Big thumbs up for Haruhi Suzumiya.
Sounds great.
Lovely. Let's go over the last couple super chats before we head out. Jomo, Slow-Mo, thank you so much. 20 Norwegian kroner. Oh my God. This is our Batman v Superman. Pauly Shore versus Jamie Kennedy. Which is worse?
Has
Okay,
Pauly Shore
so-
made a movie as good as Scream or Scream 2?
No.
Aha.
But has Jamie Kennedy ever made anything passable that is not one of those two?
It's been okay. I saw Malibu's Most Wanted. I saw that when it came out. I have not thought about it or seen it since. Does Malibu's Most Wanted hold up?
I can't look at that. I can't imagine it does. I can't imagine it does. Is that Cal Penn? Is that Cal Penn? Is that
That looks
former
like it might be Cal Penn. Yeah,
Obama aide
Obama
Cal Penn?
administration. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mother is watching House, by the way, and she just texted me and was like, "Oh, we've reached the point where Cal Penn got hired by the Obama White House." Because like it is he has a very sudden departure from House. Which is, I don't know if people have seen it, but it is it is one of the most bizarre choices I have seen for a character exit, where it's just, no, he died off screen. And they kind of, the point is that there is no point and there is no explanation and it can't be rationalized, but it is so fascinating that's like, yeah, he left because like Obama tapped him to come be his speechwriter.
Yeah. Which, by the way, fair.
Yeah,
Very fair.
big Harold and Kumar fan. Murray, the Demonic Skull, thank you so much for the $2 Canadian dono. To get more Jack, give more Ko-Fi donos.
No.
That was my version of you. The person I feel the worst for is Casey, because Casey's the only one who can hear the laughter, because his OBS is cursed and it still happens on every Casey show.
That's right. Someone set it up to where Ko-Fi donos have like me laughing.
There has to be a way to shut that off. I'm sure there is. Casey's like, there's no way. It's just this exists.
We made a poor choice one time, and
yeah,
it's funny.
I don't know what this is, Eric, but I'm trying to maximize the effort here.
I like it.
You look like a German synth band from the 80s. It's great.
Oh my God. Oh, look at this one.
Oh, I don't. I think this is worse. This is
You need
significantly
to
worse.
kill the 5 heads in order to be able to damage the
Yeah, that's it.
I've played enough games.
I was gonna say, yeah. Is there a right sequence on them as well? Is the sequence in which they blink? That's Autobahn.
Vector, thank you so much for a $5 dono. I was calling nobody Jerry Wick until I realized that Keanu and Bob are a year different in age. Oops.
Wow.
The thing about nobody is I would feel more charitable towards it if it hadn't almost like killed Bob Odenkirk is the thing.
Sure.
Like, know the story about him. Yeah, that's it. And obviously like it's less of a problem now because he's not going back to New Mexico to shoot Better Call Saul. But it's like, obviously you get in such intense physical shape at such an age, your blood starts pumping, and the conditions of New Mexico, he like collapsed and had a massive heart attack. And if he had not been hanging out with, I believe it was like Ray Seahorn and Patrick Fabian, he would probably be dead, which is insane. And I love that he was like, I'm gonna do that again.
Send me back.
I think like I haven't seen nobody, and I don't plan on watching either of them. What I can champion is Bob Odenkirk like living his best life. I think he's such a talent. And it's like, if he wants to do these things, great. If he wants to try to be an action star or be just a name in general, so good for him. What an absolute talent. Do whatever you need to do.
Like I was rewatching the first season of Fargo, and I had forgotten that he plays like the chief in that, which is a thankless role, but he is so good in. By the way, I want to shout out Stephen Root as a dentist. Call him Stephen Root Canal.
I like it. You know who plays the sheriff in Fargo season 2?
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson.
America's sweetheart. Just as long as you don't watch Hard Candy.
Oh yeah, he's not. He's bad in that
no,
one.
No, he's not America's sweetheart.
Can't do that.
He's like America's most popular scream queen, right? No,
yeah. There is a very solid arc. Like, I love that. Like, he's in the Insidious franchise. He directed Insidious 5, The Red Door, and I love that. Like, you've reached the point of making so many Insidious movies that it's just like, what do we call it? Red Door. That's a runner.
Give me generic iconography, and that's what the movie will be about. Great.
PT with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, PT. The Stand, an incredible first 90%, and then it just ends.
That's a lot of Stephen King.
Yeah,
the first 90% is like 1,100 pages. So.
Yeah, no, there is a lot of like rocks fall, everyone dies to King, from what I remember. And I was talking to somebody who has read far more King than I have, and they're like, yeah, that's just something you accept when you start reading like King. Where like one of the things about The Dead Zone that feels so weird is that it's a movie that has, it's a novel that has a very strong ending, and it's the first 90% that just kind of meanders a little bit to get there.
Yeah. I really love the Stand book, and I have like a soft spot for the Mick Garris 90s miniseries, and I just never watched the more recent miniseries from a couple years ago with James Marsden, right?
America's other scream queen.
I think he's America's sweetheart at this point.
No, he's America's hanging out with a CGI critter in the front seat of his cop car, right? Isn't there 3 movies where he does that? Which is
two of them are like Sonic movies, but yes.
Yeah. One of them's Hop.
One of them's Hop. Like, I love. To be fair, what if we removed Russell Brand from this movie is always a good call.
Sure. Yeah.
What if we could do this without Russell Brand? We can keep the other guy, but
yeah, 2020 miniseries had James Marsden, Alexander Skarsgård, Whoopi Goldberg.
Ooh,
she was probably the old lady in the cornfield. Whoopi had to be the old lady in the cornfield. There's no one else in the stand she could have been. Shout out to Whoopi. Friend of the show, Whoopi.
I'm going to say friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Whoopi Goldberg.
Actual friend of the show, James Marsden. Yeah.
Actual friend of the show, James
Marsden. We're like layering them.
Cyclops. I feel bad for him being in that Avengers movie. He's better than that. He doesn't have to do that. Listen, James Marsden, if you're listening, you don't have to show up for these Avengers movies. You're good.
They've scanned your body, like it's grand.
It doesn't matter. Channing Tatum broke his leg, and Gambit's still going to be throwing cards. It doesn't matter.
Alan Cumming has no idea who he's fighting. Are we excited for Welcome to Derry, the attempt to do the Stephen King shared universe thing?
God, no.
No.
Jesus Christ, no. Stop it. Please stop it.
I'm gonna be honest, Jack got angrier than I thought. I think it's gonna be bad. There's a recent example of a thing where I'm like, we don't need this story. I guess maybe it was Andor, where I was like, I don't need a show about Andor. Yeah. And then I watch Andor and I'm like, I need more shows about Andor.
When Andor's not on screen, everybody should be talking about Andor.
Yeah. No, you could say the same thing about Better Call Saul.
Penguin,
I don't need a show about
Better Call Saul, yeah.
Yeah, Penguin. So maybe I should just shut the fuck up and eat my slop.
Right. Like anything can be good. There's no one could have convinced me that like a John Cena starring role in a DC universe show about a character no one has heard about, it would be some of the most brilliant television in the past however many years. So yeah, no, if it's good, it's good. Shared universe stuff is getting real tired, and it's so easy to be lazy in shared universe stuff, and so I just think it's set up to fail, and we gotta stop it. We just gotta stop it, y'all.
Well, I mean, look. After this, it's only the new Harry Potter TV show and the 7 Game of Thrones spin-offs that HBO afterward. Like, it is so fascinating how HBO went from being like, Deadwood and The Sopranos and The Wire to being like, and I love The Penguin, but being like The Penguin, Dune, all of the Game of Thrones spin-offs, the Stephen King shared universe show. Lanterns, Peacemaker. It is so. It says something about the state of modern culture, perhaps not something good, but it says something.
It says something about the state of the people in charge of modern culture. Give him the old boot. Come on.
But hey,
Harry Potter series. No, what were you saying? You yelling?
I was going to say, at least like Warner Brothers are going to be bought by David Ellison, who now owns Paramount. That's the big rumor going around this week, is that like David Ellison, like he's got the taste.
Call of Duty Cinematic Universe is in safe hands. The Harry Potter show is the most baffling to me, because every behind the scenes shot, I'm like, this just looks exactly like the movies.
Yeah.
Like this,
We cast
like
Warwick Davis, who's playing
they're
the same
literally
role.
recasting actors from the movies to replay their roles. I'm like, why? What are we doing? Like, like literally, who is this for?
Well, it's for J.K. Rowling so that she doesn't have to worry about her children rejecting her.
Too late. don't be a mean old bat. Your kids will reject you. And Sir Arthur, thank you so much for the dono. Imagine Pokemon Concierge in Galar, the in-canon region heavily based on the UK, and with a cute dog. Wait, those are the other guys. Oh, those are Ardman! You backdoored me into talking about Ardman, Sir Arthur. God damn it.
I saw the, I want to say the first episode of Pokemon Concierge when it came out, and I was like, oh, this is delightful. And it's like, that's the thing that shocks me the most about you and your never seen disdain for Ardman, where it's like, this is so full of whimsy. Marty would love this.
I think I want to go back to, I think the nexus point of me hating it, and I don't know if this is real or not, but in my head, one year it won Best Animated, an Ardman movie won Best Animated Movie at the Oscars over that year's Miyazaki movie.
I said, even have been Chicken Run.
Was it Chicken Run over Spirited Away? Or
no, Spirited
Mononoke?
Away won. I think Spirit probably over Mononoke, because I remember Spirited Away won, and I think that was like the second or third animated Oscar. I'm gonna go check this now.
Gotcha.
You may be right.
That's the reason.
You know what?
I think my close personal friend Hayao Miyazaki.
That's a fair,
which he would appreciate. Obviously,
that's a fair villain origin story. Like Chicken Run was one of those like, oh, he's been snubbed so often, we'll give him one. But
yeah,
but no. To put this in perspective, so the winners of the Best Animated Feature Oscar were obviously. It premiered in Cannes in competition. It is Shrek. Spirited Away won the second year. Finding Nemo the third year. The Incredibles the fourth year. You have to get to the fifth year until Ardman won, which was Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So that feels a little... It did beat Howl's Moving Castle.
It beat Howl's Moving Castle. That's where my anger's.
But Spirited Away has already won an Oscar.
That doesn't mean when you release a banger, you still get your Oscars. I don't like that this is the one for you, you don't get any more. It's like, no, he's still making bangers. He still
this
gets all
is also
Oscars.
for me. And that's for me. And that's for me too.
I'm taking all these with me. Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'll
so there
tell
you go.
which one's for me.
I think that is where my, I think that is the nexus point of my Ardman hate.
Okay. I'm going to say that's a fair villain origin story. I'm going to allow that. But just know that there's still a place for you here.
I love, by the way, that you're mad at like the Ardman people and not at like Shrek or like the Pixar people who dominated.
Can't be mad at Shrek.
That's
Mike Myers. Shrek is one spot removed from Austin Powers. Can't be mad at that.
And like just and again, I think Pixar are on like an all-time heater run. I think that its studio run from like 1996 from Toy Story or 1997 through to say 2010 is like one of the great studio runs in history. But it's like, it's so weird that you're like, one that I really resent the time they gave it to those quirky British people 5 years in.
Ooh.
Yeah.
When they give it
Happy Feet the following year.
Those independent filmmakers who are doing something unique and different. Oh, I hate it when they win.
They're not even American.
They're not even American.
Or
Unlike Hayao
Japanese,
Miyazaki, the proudest American there is. Shrek beat Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, and Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
What is going on? What Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius?
Remember when Disney were trying CGI? Like when they were like, we don't need to buy Pixar. We got this handled.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Saber Lily, thank you so much for a $10 dono over in YouTube. I'm a bit behind, but not the Haruhi Endless 8. In the novel the series is based on, it only takes one chapter to resolve. To say the anime version had ruffled some people's feathers is an understatement. So not only did they adapted it, but they're like, let's fuck up the audience.
I now love it even more. Like to turn the knife and just be like, you are coming along on this ride.
and again, like I said, if every episode was literally the same animation, you would be like, that's cheap. That's a cop out. that is you trying to save time and money. But every episode is animated differently with like a slightly different tone to it, with different camera angles and everything, and different line readings. Like the actors who have said, like, we felt insane having to reread this script 8 episodes in a row because we were like, can't you just reuse the shit we did last time? Good stuff.
Or just get us to record the dialogue 8 times in one session. That would also be
seems like it'd be an easier thing. Can we just knock it all out? Yeah.
This is obviously guy who has only seen Boss Baby saying this gives me big Boss Baby vibes. But like it does kind of remind me a little bit of like what I sensed the mood was over like Evangelion, the end of not the movie end of Evangelion, but the final episode of the TV show
of Evangelion. Yeah.
Which I know there's back and forth on like whether or not that was an intentional screw you to the audience, or whether that was an artistic statement, or whether it was a budget thing or whatever. But like, is this something that just happens in anime that you could not conceive of a major American studio doing outside of say Joker, Folly Do?
I mean, Joker, that's honestly a good modern comp. In terms of how successful the first one was, and then let's just do this for the second one and see what happens.
To me, this sounds like, you know, those horror movies that really like want an audience member to feel like disgusted and uncomfortable. And so it's like, we are going to linger on stuff that is going to make people want to turn away to evoke a certain response. And I don't know if I will ever watch this anime, but I respect the hell out of them for doing this.
I respect big in any medium like this. I respect a big swing. That's why, listen, I'm gonna go to bat for Megalopolis whenever you need. Which did you guys hear? The Megadoc?
Megadoc is happening,
and apparently it's good. The Megadoc is like good,
but it's directed by a filmmaker is the thing, which is incredible.
Which like, is the guy who directed Leaving Las Vegas to tie it all around to
Nicolas Cage to bring it all back, and like so much of it is him like discussing the process of making. It's a meta doc as well.
Yeah,
it's a meta doc. Where he's just like, I was given these constraints and I'm working with this, and my question is how I convey this to you. Is it Nathalie Emmanuel's agent let her be shot eating salad? I think is like a major point of contention at one point during the documentary.
Can't eat salad in the club.
In the club. No, and by the way, like it's something I check on weekly. There is still like no solid US physical release for Megalopolis, which is insane. I'm trying to, as legal as possible, rewatch this movie because I saw it in the theaters and I want to like replay the madness in my head. Hopefully with Megadoc coming out, they will announce some sort of nice physical release for Megalopolis.
It's coming.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll devote an entire episode to the Megadoc just so we can talk about Megalopolis.
100%.
Yeah.
Me being the least fond of that movie on this podcast was not something I would have called.
It was unexpected. It was truly unexpected. Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it for us this afternoon. Jack, what do you got going on? What should folks check out in your neck of the woods?
Once again, Nick is far too busy to stream, so I'm filling in for Nick in about 45 minutes. I will be back with Jenna Stieber, and we are going to continue playing Peak.
Nice.
And hopefully this time make it further than, you know, the first cliff and die several times. So
I believe you.
So
I was hoping whatever you were going to say you're playing, I'm like, God, I hope it's something we have art for. And then you said Peak. I'm like, great, we have art for it.
That was got an entire folder.
At the beginning of the podcast, I was messaging back and forth, like, what are we going to play? And it was like, Peak, great. We already have art for that. That's easy.
Excellent. Lovely.
So I will be back in 45 minutes with Peak. Thursday is still up in the air. I may be back with Jess on Thursday, or there might be some other stream happening. We need to figure that out. And then preparing for season 5 of Adventures Nigh. Everyone's coming into town. Everyone's coming to Milwaukee, y'all. And it's going to be an absolutely terrifying. I think we have it set up as a 12-day shoot because this is the final arc.
Long Milwaukee.
It's a long Milwaukee. Absolutely. I'm so very excited and terrified. I've been making maps and thinking of devious things to have all my players run into. And I can't talk about it because, you know, they might be listening. But
have you been listening to the song Maps by the YAS as inspiration?
Wait, they don't love you like I love you.
What a song.
What a song.
What a tune. We'll a little bit down the road, we'll let you guys know when that shoot is going to be, mostly because obviously we'll have a bit of a programming disruption for that 2-week span. However, while we might be lacking some of our normal pods and streams, I think we'll be making up for it with some fun on location, some stuff that we can do when we're in the same room, which we can't do at other times. Hell yeah. And then Darren, where can folks find you? Obviously the new backdrop that you and Jesse put together is phenomenal.
So
that went up this morning.
Yes, looking at Disney and its relationship to Gen Z, the pivot to Gen Z, which was a big story about a week and a half ago, was that Disney feel like they are losing Gen Z males, and so are trying to shift direction in order to cater to or win them over. So myself, obviously having no glimpse of what the future would be like, myself and Jesse thought it'd be interesting to look at all the times in the past Disney have tried to alter their strategy with the goal of attracting younger generation boys. The hard turns that they've taken in several of their major wings, from their animated films, their live action movies, etc., and how all of those paid off or didn't, and the impact that they had on the larger entertainment ecosphere, which was all great and fantastic, and you shouldn't have any questions about. But we thought it'd be an interesting excuse to take a look and just see why Disney are maybe not as good at this as they should be, and why they consistently fail to learn from the mistakes that they make in their previous attempts to reorient themselves to capitalize on that perceived market gap. It's a really fun video. I want to share. I know I always am like, Jesse's incredible. Jesse is stunning. We're like.
Always.
I was worried recording this that this was going to be a very dry one. It's quite heavy on statistics. There's a lot of numbers in there, because I didn't want to be the guy who's the old man shaking his fist at the sky talking about oh, boys like this and girls like this and Gen Z likes this, but that's different from millennials. I didn't want to indulge in stereotypes of generations. I wanted to actually go, here's what the numbers say, here's the surveys that we have to prove it. And Jesse incorporates all that fantastic, but he also manages to make it fun, which is incredible. As somebody who records the voice and writes the script, when I get the video back and I watch it, and it is fun and playful and inventive, I'm blown away. He does it every week, but when I do something like this, I'm particularly impressed because it's it is a very information dense episode. And I can't shout out Jesse enough. I'm really proud of it. I hope people like it. It seems to be doing reasonably well, generating healthy conversation, one might say.
Listen, people in chat are noticing there's a pivot going on. I'm just saying there's a pivot.
There's a big pivot. My favorite part, because this is a more analytical backdrop, less opinionated, but my favorite part is looking back at times where subconsciously I knew these were kind of failure times, but then you kind of pinning oh, they were definitely pivoting to boys. Oh, okay. Well, then they kind of came back, to the stuff they know. Then they tried pivoting to boys. Oh, that's why that movie was made. Just glorious episode.
Yeah,
glorious.
And that's why Disney closed down their animation studio in Florida. And that's one of the reasons, among several, why 2D animation does not exist at all.
Right?
This is one reason why we don't have original blockbusters anymore.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. But yeah, it's I think I'm very proud of it. Also want to shout out, I am doing columns at the weekend. If you liked our discussion of the Conjuring Last Rites and want to get the proper night swim treatment for the Conjuring Last Rites and understand what the Conjuring Last Rites says about contemporary America, I wrote a piece. I'm actually I think it turned out rather well, looking at the Conjuring Last Rites as, whether intentionally or not or subconsciously, an exploration of a crisis in American masculinity, where it is a movie that is obsessed with the idea of unfiring spark plugs and guns that won't go off and men with heart complaints and failed fathers and hanging fathers and men who are being cuckolded. It is so weirdly fixated on men are not okay, which is such a strange subtext to layer into your 4-quadrant crossover horror movie. So that is on the site in terms of column coverage. This week coming up, and this is entirely accidental because Marty will vouch for this, I wrote this piece 4 months ago when Apple gave me the screeners about how about how the third season of Foundation is literally all about dicks. I swear I wrote these two pieces months apart. Yeah, there is something stirring, but I got to the end of like watching the third season of like Foundation. I was like, this is there's a lot of the dick energy going on here. Big, little, who could say? So that will be coming out this weekend as well. And I'm probably right about the Long Walk in some capacity, because I think that's the movie that I did really love. Unless, of course,
why it relates to dicks.
And why it relates to dicks.
That one comes in, it's about dicks. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm starting to think this is less a cultural moment. This might be just
the walk gets a lot shorter when it gets cold out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is literally just about men. Like, it is very pointedly just boys who go on this long walk and become men. And Mark Hamill is very very insistent about Sack in that movie. But it's not, I promise you, Marty, this will not be a column about Sack.
You could write about Mark Hamill's turn as Cockknocker in the hit film Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He had big fists. He'd punch cock. He'd knock cocks. That was his deal.
Isn't it great that Hamill is like went from being the kind of like the Luke Skywalker, he's never as good, and he's never as good as Ford, but like he's the one of the three who can't really act, to being like an old character actor who you were just so happy to see when he turns up and stuff like this and Life of Chuck and like The Last Jedi and others. Like it's so great that he had this kind of moment of like just being like, no, he may not be Harrison Ford, but he's like grown into being
he was meant to be an old man actor. Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's what I'm at. And I think you mentioned last week I can plug the 250. We're going on hiatus after this week. So this weekend, we will be covering, to mark the upcoming release of One Battle After Another, Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood, with the wonderful Bill Bagnall, the fantastic Darcy Faccio. So yeah, check that out if you're on a podcast service.
Get on the podcast service just to listen to that one. That sounds like a great episode.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. When does One Battle After Another come out? I just saw the first. Is that going to be ready for our next episode? Does that come out the 19th?
It's no. I think it's or at least over here. I believe it's the 26th. But
okay. Yeah. That. I saw the Fortnite skins coming out for that. What's going on there? What are we doing?
What?
One Battle After Another, the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio, has Fortnite skins, and I believe a Fortnite map. I don't know what's going. I think this movie might end up secretly making a bunch of money.
Well, I mean, like, isn't that the thing? Warner Brothers have had like 7 consecutive movies to open over $40 million, which is the first time that has happened in the run of any studio, and it's incredible when you consider they started the year with the Alto Knights.
I think if we've hit that point in which a movie like that has Fortnite skins, we can just call it like entertainment. We're done. We can just be done with all entertainment. I'm like,
Fortnite tricks people though. Like, remember when Christopher Nolan was like, "Yeah, I guess we'll debut Tenet in Fortnite."
The trailer for Tenet. Like, I do love the idea of like somebody having to log Nolan into Fortnite to oversee his launch event.
He doesn't have a computer. He's like, my typewriter. How does it connect?
I'm hitting the www key and nothing is happening.
But that's great.
But it is the 26th. So I will have
26th.
seen it. I will probably have seen it the Monday before we record, I think.
Okay, so next week,
maybe screening is what I think it is.
We'll plan to do the Long Walk, or 2 weeks from now, Long Walk, and then we'll chat about Stephen King adaptations and all that fun stuff. And then definitely want to hit One Battle After Another the following episode. Hell yeah. But yeah, that'll do it. Oh, and then right before we leave, Vector, thank you so much. Been the Green Gang for 20 months. See Mark Hamill in his next big role, Star Citizen. It's not a real game. Star Citizen is a Ponzi scheme that pretends it's a real video game that has taken hundreds of millions of dollars and has tons of famous actors in it. Gary Oldman's in this game. And I do not think it's a real game. I believe it's a Ponzi scheme.
I love that there's an evil Kojima. Like, I love that
there is an evil
Kojima.
Darren gets it.
This people in Star Citizen: Andy Serkis, Gillian Anderson, John Rhys Davis, Liam Cunningham, Mark Hamill, like Mark Strong, Gary Oldman, Ben Mendelsohn, Jack Houston. What is this thing? It says Henry Cavill, but I think that's a lie.
I mean, Henry Cavill's playing it on the he's playing on the computer he built himself, right?
Exactly.
I got really buffed to be in this movie.
All this muscle comes from building gaming rigs.
Famously buff.
Yeah.
Buff. But yeah, that'll do it for us. As we mentioned, or as Jack mentioned, he'll be back with Jenna in a little over half an hour playing Peak. So tune back in for that. And then, we should have normal streams and vids throughout the week. So please come back and join us then. So for Jack and Darren and Eric, this was Marty. This was the Rewind episode number 29. Thank you so much, everyone watching live on YouTube, listening on your podcast service of choice. And of course, a special thanks to all of our patrons out there. We appreciate each and every one of you. So y'all have a good, you really do make it all possible. Y'all have a good rest of the afternoon, and hopefully see you in half an hour for Peak. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.